They say it's good to end the year with a bang, but lacking fireworks, heavy objects, or a common state of mild arousal, we're going to do it with mobile technology on this year's last episode of the Pocketnow Weekly. Now, the end of the year in tech is already dominated by lists. Best of, worst of, top 10, bottom 20, all that. So rather than foist another one upon you for the last podcast of the year, we've decided to dedicate this show to you, the listener, and more specifically to the listeners who've written to us. That's right. Just like we did back in the summer, for the last show of 2013, we're focusing entirely on listener mail on this, the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week audio podcast where we discuss smartphones, tablets, and the state of mobile technology in 2013. I'm your host, Michael Fisher, editorial director at Pocketnow, and joining me to close out the year, our chief news editor, Stephen Schenk, and senior editor, Taylor Martin. Happy holidays to you, gentlemen.
Happy holidays to yourself.
Ooh, your face.
And to all you listeners out there.
And to all your listeners, yes.
Yeah, and to all your listeners, let it be known that all of the listener mail is actually from me today.
All of it. All of it is from Taylor Martin and his various pen names.
Yeah, I created a bunch of fake emails and sent a bunch of stupid questions, so we decided that we needed to dedicate some time to that.
That's right.
Puppet-tastic.
We don't hear Taylor talk enough, so we needed to dedicate more time to hearing Taylor's voice. Isn't that right?
We're thinking about just creating a podcast of me just ranting.
That's right.
Actually.
That's right. The Pocketnow twice daily. They're just recorded calls of Taylor getting frustrated with me on the phone.
And playing with cars on my desk.
Yeah.
We'll get him a Google Glass, have a live feed hooked up. Everything he'll just be talking to himself all day, broadcasting
24 hours of Taylor Martin.
It'd be like the Truman Show. That'd be great.
It would be great for 20 minutes. That would be awesome.
I don't think that would be great was the message that you're supposed to get from the Truman Show coming away from that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm actually getting a video call from Brandon right this second.
Is that true? Can you answer it while we're on the podcast? Can we say hi to Brandon on the podcast?
Yeah.
On this,
yes.
Yeah. What's he doing? What's he doing? Is it on Skype or is it something else?
It's Hangouts.
Oh, all right.
It's connecting. I think he hung up.
Watch, we're about to broadcast Taylor getting fired. This is going to be incredible.
Taylor, let's go take a walk.
Whoa! Hey, you're on the podcast. So mind your words.
What's with the terrible fun video?
I have no idea.
Well, Taylor's using most of his bandwidth for the podcast. Hey, Brandon.
Why are you frozen?
I don't know. He can't hear you.
And Brandon can't hear me, right? Yeah, because this isn't a Skype patch in. All right, if he can't hear me, then get him out of here.
It's much less fun.
Yeah, he's frozen. I'll text him.
Yeah. Go ahead and end that call. Well, actually, I'll use that as a nice segue here. I was gonna ask about you guys, but I want to say that there's been a site announcement today that most of you have probably already seen, listeners. Brandon has announced something we've known internally for a while, but today it's gone public. Brandon Miniman will be stepping down from his role as editor-in-chief come February. This is not bad news. This is not a result of a scandal or anything untoward. This is just Brandon moving on with his life. And if you'd like to know what are the reasons behind this move, he's conjured up a nice 7-minute video for y'all.
I'm sorry, February?
Yeah, that's right. Am I wrong?
I thought it was January.
Well, January 1st, he's no longer...
He's no longer EIC as of January, and I think he's kind of stepping back from most active stuff as of February. But he's still going to be around, so he's still going to guest on podcasts. We're going to have him on a kind of like a special podcast soon, which I'm looking forward to. I want to kind of haul out some old stuff from Pocketnow's like 13-year history. And but in his place will be stepping into the EIC role will be our own Anton Dinoj. And Brandon, in his video, in his farewell video, says that I can pronounce Anton's last name. I can't. I don't know why he gave me those props because I can't pronounce it at all. But
we should be able to. Apparently, it's like the most popular surname in Romania.
I love that
it's like Smith over there.
I love that it means big. But anyway, yeah, they're big shoes to fill, and Tony's a big enough guy to do it. So it's going to be great. I'm sorry that neither one of them could be on the show today, but there was the Pocketnow Live this morning, and now Anton's working on some back-end stuff, and Brandon is apparently calling Taylor on horrible video calls. So
yeah, and he's not responding when I try to.
Well, things are busy at the end of the year here, so if you want to see that video, we'll embed it in the podcast post or drop a link to it. So we're looking forward to an exciting 2014. A lot of stuff is going to change, a lot's going to stay the same, and hopefully it'll be bad stuff going away and good stuff getting better. So Thank you for sticking with us through this. And what I was going to say before I started the announcements, actually, is, you guys, I didn't do any intro jokes for you because I have no idea what you've been up to. We're just coming off a holiday break, and I don't know how they were. How was your holiday, Stephen?
Uneventful. I learned a lot about Philadelphia's rail transit and how much I hate it, but other than that...
Spent a lot of time on the locomotive this holiday,
Oh, my Lord. It took 4 hours to travel maybe 60 miles. It's good.
Oh,
it's fun. With like 5 transfers in there, so it's fun.
Yeah, wow. Understand. Well, what did you get everything you asked for from who? Santa Claus?
I got
the Kwanzaa
cash and chocolate,
Santa Claus,
and that's it.
Nice.
And I am happy with that. That works for me.
That's outstanding. We like that. Not to be too materialistic, we just like to ask these things. You know, we're a materialistic industry.
Yes.
Taylor got some wind up cars for his holiday, as I understand.
I did. I got an Aventador. That's pretty awesome in my book.
What is that? A bird?
An Aventador? No,
Yeah.
One of those $1 million Italian cars.
Yeah, $500,000 Lamborghini.
Except, but the model is like $24.99 though, right? How big is it?
I don't know. It fits in the palm of my hand. But hey, it's nice. An Aventador, and I can dream.
That's good.
I got pots and pans from my mother.
Oh, you need those, man.
Yeah, that's useful.
Oh man,
that's way useful.
No. You don't even know. When I moved back in July, when I moved on about a 6-hour notice because my heat had been out for like 2 or 3 weeks at the time.
Yeah, you weren't happy about that.
Yeah, I was living at home, working at home. Of course, I was living at home, but I had to move on a very, very short notice. And when you move quickly like that, you forget things. And
that's true.
I forgot about $400 worth of kitchen appliances and equipment. And yeah, I've been making do without for 6 months now. So my mom was like, "I'll get you this for Christmas."
So you planning a big smorgasbord or something for this weekend?
I probably should. I want to do some shrimp boil. I got a giant pot, and I want to do shrimp boil in it.
What the hell is shrimp oil? Is that oil? Is that you put shrimp in the oil?
Boil. Shrimp boil.
What's a shrimp boil? You just boil a lot of shrimp?
Well, yeah, kind of.
It's pretty simple.
You get shrimp. You put you boil it in water and beer. So you make kind of like you boil it in water and beer, and you throw in shrimp, crab meat,
and everything.
Yeah, a little bit of whatever you want. Like I usually put andouille or kielbasa sausage in it.
Oh yeah, you got to put that stuff in there.
Yeah, like small corn on the top.
I don't like shrimp, but I would eat it if it tasted like sausage.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to put shrimp in it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with you.
I know. My last name is Fisher, and I don't like a lot of seafood, so what are you going to do with that?
And you love to sail and be on the water.
Exactly right, but I don't. I prefer to live in harmony with the sea's creatures.
I just like to catch fish, then kind of make fun of them and throw them back in.
I like to bring them right to the brink of death.
Yeah.
It's a service I provide before throwing them back.
I think
give
they
them
call
perspective.
that being sadistic.
I think you're right. I don't do it. I actually don't do it. I can't eat lobster anymore because I don't like watching them crawl around before they're killed, so that I can consume them for no reason. Like I don't. Anyway, let's talk. That's great. I wish you luck with your shrimp boil, Taylor.
Thank you. Shrimp boil.
Shrimp boil.
It sounds like something you pop and then crustaceans come out of it.
Yeah, it does. Shrimp boil.
But I got a sweet iPad case for my girlfriend and a rucksack. Like I scored this year. It was great. It was a great year.
That's radical.
All of my family came into town. I heard yours didn't. So
yeah, I had like the most uneventful Christmas ever. Like I brought my girlfriend down to Long Island, and I was like, "Hey, meet exactly 1/10 of my family because all the rest of them are spread across the United States this year." So
these are into it, right?
What? Yeah, I guess. Still, I like big to dos on holidays if they're full of people I like and not people I dislike. So it would have been nice to have everyone I like there. Instead, I had only a few people I liked there. But whatever. It was a great holiday. It was fun. I want to talk a little bit about the Stitcher Awards before getting into this. Guys, the nominations are closed. Thank you to everyone who cast votes in our direction for the second annual Stitcher Awards, I think. I think we ended in good stead. But Stitcher, the podcasting network, is letting us know let everyone know at stitcher.promotw.com that they are tabulating the results, which apparently will take them until the 31st. Personally, I think they just want a long holiday, and who can blame them? But we will see if we have been nominated. And then if we have, we'll ask you to vote again for us, because that's the way these things work. Isn't that right?
It's a little...
Yes.
why have the 2 rounds of voting? Couldn't they just have vote and then the one that gets the most?
They had to get nominations first, right? So they had to get a pool of nominees first. Well, I'm glad they did, because if they had done it by straight up traffic at first, I don't think we would have made it. Because as Taylor said on the last show, our Stitcher rating went up quite a bit as a result of everyone voting for us, and I think that's because not a lot of people in our audience knew about Stitcher at first. Then they got Stitcher, and then they started listening to us through Stitcher, so it worked out nicely. So,
yeah, I downloaded Stitcher for the first time.
It's so cool. Like I said last week, I found it on WebOS in 2009. It was like one of the only podcasting apps. I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, oh wow, this is radical. And 4 years later, I'm still using the thing. So,
well, it's missing one small feature that I really just need. And I didn't install it on iOS, so maybe I'm wrong. But I use
it on Android. Oh yeah, Pocket Cast. What?
I use Pocket Cast to sync where I'm listening in specific podcasts across different devices and operating systems.
Oh, I see. Okay, Roger. Yeah, no, it doesn't have that, but not that I'm aware of, anyway. But at any rate, if you listen to us on Stitcher, thank you. If you listen to us at all, thank you. Speaking of that in general,
if you nominated us, thank you. Don't forget that.
I think I already said that. I'm going to say it again at the end. So I'll say it again. Thank you again for nominating us. If you did, and we will speak more on this in the future. But I was going to talk a little on the podcast health, but it sounds like Taylor Martin has something to say uncharacteristically.
Just an update on the branding call. Random.
What?
He video called me to say hi. That was why he video called. Yeah.
He was just bored. He wanted to hang out.
Like I said, I'm on the podcast. Did you need something? And he was like, "What?" You called me. You called me.
Awesome. By the way, if you're a first-time listener to the Pocketnow Weekly, for some reason you're listening to the last show of the year for your first exposure to the podcast, first of all, welcome. Second of all, usually we're into the news by now, but it's kind of,
Are we?
We're dragging a little bit. Yeah, usually the intro doesn't last more than like 4 minutes. We're at like 10 minutes now. But there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And speaking of which, the podcast health situation, I did some kind of rough math. I looked at our Libsyn counts and our YouTube counts and such. And there's yet another reason to thank our listeners. This year, very roughly speaking, we've the podcast has grown, the audience has grown by between 30 and 40%. Yay. So from January 2013 to December 2013, we've grown almost half again as large as we were at the beginning of the year. So that is wonderful news. It's wonderful to see, and we want to thank everyone for sticking with us this long and for lending your ears to our voices once a week, every week, and we have yet to miss a week. So claps all around.
Claps all around, and while we're plugging the weekly, we should plug social media, because that's my business now.
Yeah, Taylor Martin's in charge of social media at pocketnow.com.
It's my business.
Yeah, that's right. You just recently followed. I just got an email from somebody huge. It was like, hey, thanks for the follow finally. And I was like, oh, good job, Taylor. I guess we weren't following important people.
Oh, I didn't follow anybody.
It was Tony then. Never mind. Anyway, yeah, Taylor's in charge of social media, as we said last week. So pay attention to our social media channels, because they're about to get a whole lot more southern, right?
Oh, yeah. Probably big trucks, maybe a little flannel and camouflage.
Get ready for
Duck Dynasty. No Duck Dynasty.
Tons of NASCAR tweets and mentions of shrimp boils at least once a week.
NASCAR.
Barbecue sandwich.
Speaking of Christmas and Duck Dynasty,
wearing American flags as garments. Yeah,
we do Dirty Santa at my grandmother's house.
What?
And Dirty Santa.
What is this?
Is that
you need to clear this up right away. Yeah.
Oh! I didn't know that wasn't a common knowledge thing.
It's not. Not
Dirty Santa is everyone brings a present in the same price range, and you draw numbers 1 through however many people there are. The person who draws number 1 goes first and last, and basically, you pick a gift, and after that first person goes, you can either steal their gift, or you can pick a gift from the pile.
Okay.
And
all right.
So yeah. So it's probably called different things in different places, but we play that, and there's always this one gift that's just awful. It's so bad. Like, my uncle brought a George Foreman 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, and he walked away with the George Foreman, and he already had 4. I don't know why he had 4, but he said he had 4. So he brought the same George Foreman back, and then went home with it again 2 years in a row. Like, he just can't get rid of it. And, we expected something like that this year. And if there's one thing I hate in this world, like the bane of my existence, it's probably Duck Dynasty.
All right, for listeners, this is an American reality television series on A&E. It shows the lives of the Robertson family, who become wealthy from their family-operated business, Duck Commander, operated in West Monroe, Louisiana, which makes products for duck hunters.
Yeah. So, it's this show that's way more popular than it should be. So my cousin, who's in the Navy, he brought a Duck Dynasty talking plush doll. And of all the gifts that were there,
is it a duck or one of the men from the show?
It was Uncle Si, which is apparently the most popular guy. I don't know. But anyway, I picked this doll, and the entire time, like, I was trying to pawn it off on people, and I eventually just gave it away because I hate it so much. But the whole point of this was we were on the topic of Duck Dynasty, and he was talking about how some, I think it was German soldiers or German Navy were at his naval base. And he said they were all out in their civilian clothes and going out to bars. And every single one of them had a Duck Dynasty camouflage shirt, like a camouflage like baseball cap, these big like redneck coats and boots and tight Wrangler jeans. Like they were trying their best to be like Southern Americans. And that just blew my mind because that's something that I've my entire life tried not to be.
Yeah.
And now that this show's out there, everyone is trying their best to be like this, mimic this Duck Dynasty. Like, yeah.
You guys are welcome. This is our export to you.
Yes.
Our gift to you.
I want to say, yeah, I know, and I'm sure we're actually gonna have a lot to talk about this with Tony when he comes over, because Anton is a devotee of the country western kind of culture, or the perceived country western culture as it is framed by the music and film industries. Yeah. So I want to say that I was able to spare myself some of that description by reading the Wikipedia article on Duck Dynasty, and then I suddenly realized I hadn't escaped from anything at all. I feel worse now, having talked about this for as long as we have, and I would like to move on. Can we move on?
I was just going to say that Tony, he's a Camaro guy, and I'm like a German sports car, Italian sports car kind of guy, and he's just straight up like American muscle car. And I despise the culture. He loves it. Like I said this in an email, we should totally just switch places.
Yeah.
Because I would love to be overseas. He can afford a Porsche over there, but he can't afford a Camaro. I can afford a Camaro here, and I can't afford a Porsche. Like, it's just this, like, we should just switch.
Freaky Friday situation.
It's right. Yeah, we should do that. Let's put that on the agenda. And let's put it right next to our future.
With Tony's on the agenda now.
Exactly. Switching Taylor with Tony's on the agenda, as well as our future Car Talk episode of the Pocketnow Weekly, which maybe I'll schedule that for a week when I'm on vacation. And
I have a guest lined up. He's willing to do it.
I know,
and I think people would like
that. That's what I'm saying. You and he should rap, and I'll take the week off. I'll go boating and not think about cars.
After the fact, after I asked him to do it, I thought like, I don't know if this is a good fit, because if you listen to their podcast, it's just F this, F that. We would have to edit the entire thing, and it would be like 3 minutes long.
There was a reader mail that we got, a specific request asking that we do an uncensored podcast.
That's exactly right. And you know what? This is perfect, because this is exactly what I want to segue into here. We have a listener mail, and I'll kick us off from Stephen from England, which we got 37 minutes ago. We got 2 minutes before the 2 p.m. cutoff for recording time on this podcast when we called for more listener mail. And that is exactly what it says. Just a quick note to say, I wish you guys would do an uncensored podcast. Always cracks me up when Michael loses it and starts cursing. And I bet a lot of other people find it funny also. No, I thank you. That was you guys are great, and I'm always happy to see a new edition of the podcast. It makes my commute so much more fun. Thanks. Have a great holiday season. I hope you read this out loud. Yes, absolutely, Stephen. That was that was a wonderful suggestion, and I think we talked about that earlier in the run, right? We talked about having a Pocketnow After Dark podcast. Does anybody remember that? I don't know if Stephen, you were around then.
We did a Pocketnow After Dark.
No, we didn't. Well, I wasn't around for it.
It was a late day recording. We weren't actually getting blue during the conversation. Although I think it'd be a good idea. I don't know how our sponsors would react to that.
I misheard you, Henry. In the last sentence, I was very confused for a second.
Wait, we have podcast sponsors?
I mean, the site sponsors.
Right, like our.
I was about to say, that was a development in the past week that I didn't know about. Jeez.
Well, Stephen, thank you for your mail. Hopefully someday we'll do an uncensored one. I understand, there's a lot of tech podcasts out there that do that. I understand that the gang at Tech Foolery gets all kinds of nasty. So I've got to listen to that. I've got to add that to my list because I haven't listened to an episode of that yet. So that'll be one of the things I do in the new year. So, Stephen, thank you for listening, and we'll see what we can do about getting you an uncensored one. Who wants to read the next one? Why don't we? We're kind of going down the list here, guys. We normally have a rundown, listeners, and we don't this time. We're just kind of, if you couldn't tell by the 20-minute intro, we're just kind of riffing this day. So.
Yes, we are, and I like it. I like this freestyle.
Yeah,
it allows me to just keep talking and eventually segue into something.
Man.
If I shoot from the hip long enough, you're going to be set up perfectly for a segue.
In that case, why don't you go first, Stephen?
Okay. Get that guy to shut up for a minute. Okay. I pulled a few here. Here's one I like. We had James Lanick wrote in saying, "Hello, Pocketnow team." Before he gets to his question, he just wanted to tell us how much he loves the weekly podcast and listens to it whenever he can. Well, thank you so much, James, for listening.
Yeah, thanks, James.
And please keep it up. And tell your friends. They should be listening too.
Yeah.
He writes, "My question regards the ever-improving state of smartphone cameras. I'm an amateur looking into getting into photography as a hobby. Now, the Sony CyberShot QX10 lens that attaches to your phone intrigues me. My question is, at the rate that smartphone cameras are improving, is it worth my money to buy one of these lenses now? Thank you, and keep up the good work."
Man, that's
a good question.
Tough question. It is a good question, and we haven't talked about it in some months.
No, and I'm upset that we haven't been. We are really interested in these lens cameras. The QX10, I think the QX100 was the other one, in the weeks leading up to their launch. They were so weird and interesting, and now that they arrived, we just forgot about them.
Well, we had some trouble covering them initially because we didn't have a relationship with Sony, and now we do, actually, which is very nice. But it's the end of the year. Demo devices are being recalled more than they're being issued, so that's why we haven't had any kind of to play around with, and our relationship is still new with Sony. So we were kind of unwilling to go out and buy some to review because of questions like this.
Like James says, it's expensive.
Exactly, It's expensive, and I think a lot of people are not sold on the merits of these yet. I would be very interested in hearing from anyone who's bought some and have put them to good use, because the only places I've seen them have been at trade shows and at events where I'm hanging out with fellow, geeks from Pocketnow from other sites.
People you expect to have this
exactly right. Yeah. Now, would you buy one, Stephen?
I've been tempted to. I like the idea of having a handheld camera that can be controlled via the smartphone, just because it's easier, to fit into smaller spaces, to get the good angles you're looking for. Mm-hmm. At the same time, though, I think I feel a lot of the apprehension a lot of these shoppers are. It's weird, and I'm not sure how it's going to evolve, if I'm going to keep on using it, or if I'm just interested in it because it's so novel.
That's the thing, right? It seems to me like one of those things, and I've had some hands-on time with it, and it seems to me like one of those things I would buy, use once or twice, and really enjoy the novelty while I was using it, and then immediately put in a drawer and kind of never use again. Because it's just another thing to carry around.
That's how I feel. Like I use the Ola clip a lot, or I used to, and it's kind of the same thing. Like it doesn't really fit in my pocket comfortably unless I'm wearing a coat or jacket. Mm-hmm. And it's just that same thing. Like there's no way to carry it comfortably without having a bag or some other place to put it. So it kind of defeats the purpose of having a great mobile camera.
Right, because it's like a half a soup can on there. Yeah, and that's kind of true whether it's the QX10 or the QX100. There we go. I don't know. I mean, like, Taylor, you had some strong opinions on these before.
Yeah, they're overpriced.
Yeah. Now, are they likely to come down in price at any point?
If they do, I'll jump on the more expensive one just to test it out and see if I like it. See if it's practical for something like even just capturing video for like the trade show, because that would be really cool. I think just to screw around with, maybe.
We ran into some trouble with that. There was so much Wi-Fi interference at where did we see these? MWC, CES.
No, these were out later than IFA.
These were IFA?
Yes, IFA.
Okay.
Yeah, these are recent.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. So there was so much Wi-Fi interference at the Sony booth that they didn't work right. Like they were streaming because they streamed the video feed to the phone using Wi-Fi Direct, I think. And so, like, they were delayed by seconds, like 3 seconds, and the frame rates were crap, and it was just really not a good experience at the trade show floor. So, I don't know. It wasn't an ideal demo situation, really. So, but James puts this in a very specific lens, where he says, given the evolution of smartphone cameras, are these a smart buy? Because, right, you have this attachment, it completely replaces the camera on your smartphone, yes, but it itself is a piece of camera hardware, and camera hardware is so rapidly evolving that should you buy one of these, I don't know.
That's always the case with cameras.
Exactly my point. You're not going to solve that problem by abstaining from buying these, and you're not going to solve it from buying one. Like
you can mitigate the issue. I hate doing this because we're all about smartphones and tablets, but James said he's interested in getting into photography as a hobby, and isn't really clear that this has to be smartphone related. I think if you're that interested in it and also concerned about sort of future-proofing your investment, it might be worth your while to go with a higher end but also standalone camera, because then you spend a couple $100 on a lens, but then you can use that lens with a different body so long as it's compatible with it later. So your money keeps working for you longer. It's maybe not the answer you're looking for, but I don't know.
It's a tough question to answer, and for my money, I don't think there's enough that's compelling yet in these attachments where I would recommend them being purchased.
One thing, if I'm gonna like carry another device around to take great pictures with, it's just gonna be a full-fledged camera.
Right.
Yeah.
Like my NEX is really honestly not much bigger than those attachable lenses. So to that degree, like why would I just carry that instead of carrying a dedicated camera, which is not going to kill my smartphone battery? It's I could put an iFi card in it and send them straight to my phone. I mean, there are several ways around that, and it's just at that point it's not that beneficial.
And as long as we're looking at like future looking statements, as it were, if you're worried about the fast evolution of smartphone cameras, you're going to want to look into like the phone blocks concept, or Ara, if you want to keep your phone while replacing your camera with something that's newer and hotter and stronger and faster and better.
But I will give Sony credit with these QX lenses. They have been updating the software and adding new features, so they're not just letting these things stagnate. Even if you buy one now, it probably will improve a little bit over the coming months. I think they just added 1080p video recording or something related to that, but they're still maturing. So you're even buying one today, you're not completely locked out.
Sweet. Well, that's awesome. James, thank you for the question, and Stephen, thank you for choosing it. That was an interesting one.
Sure.
What about Taylor Martin? What kind of mail does he want to answer today?
Well, I've been reading through them, and I found one that applies very, very much to me. So there's a lot of stuff in the
shrimp boiling and NASCAR and things.
Yeah, a lot of redneck things.
Good.
No, this one's from Death Metal Mods, who follows me and is very active in replying to me on or mentioning me on Twitter. I like talking back and send stuff to them.
Excellent.
He said, "Hello, Weekly. Still a big fan and happy for every new episode you shoot out and every bit of overtime. I recently contributed several comparisons to a German tech site, and of which I'm a moderator on. What really annoyed me was the issue with cross-platform instant messaging. How do you guys do it? Do that? I compared the Lumia 520 to the iPhone 5 and the Moto G, and I had to deal with my friends that are often very confused on how to contact me. I use one multi-SIM with the same number and one separate SIM, but WhatsApp doesn't support multi-SIM. Hangouts works like crap on iOS and doesn't exist on Windows Phone 8. iMessage is iOS only, and SMS is bound to one number. Any tips? I wish a great 2014 to everyone on the Pocketnow team. Greetings from Germany." And is that pronounced Malte?
Still like the island, but with a short E, so Malta. Yeah.
Malta. Yeah, well, that would make more sense if it's German. Malta would make a lot more sense than Malte or Malte. so Malta. Yeah.
Good question here. This is awesome.
Yes, that is great.
Yeah.
We've answered it before. We've answered a very similar question before, but I think the answer for me, at least, has changed. I rely almost exclusively on Hangouts now. especially now that there's SMS integration. That doesn't mean anything for people on the other end, but for me, it keeps everything into one app with the exception of Google Voice, and that's how I do everything is Google Voice. I give everyone my Google Voice number, and no matter what phone, tablet, computer, it doesn't matter what device I'm using. When somebody messages me, it comes all to every single one of them, so I don't really have anything to worry about. I don't have to worry about what device I'm using, what platform I'm using. Google Voice is available on all of them, so it's very, very nice to be able to use that from anywhere. And if you're using an operating system that doesn't support it, you can have it send an email, or you can have it forward to another number.
Yeah, or you can go through SMS.
Yeah, you can forward to another number. I mean, you can do so many things with Google Voice. It's kind of dated now. I don't like a lot of how it looks and how clunky it is in a lot of ways. But
maybe, more importantly, is it available in Germany?
That I don't know. I could ask a friend really quickly who responds to everything.
I've got a bad feeling we're going to have this really strong, just use Google Voice answer, and that's not going to be an option.
Google Voice in Germany, a Google product search. Yeah, it looks like there was a test phase rolled out August 3rd, 2011. And Product Forums says, load the page. I currently live in Germany, but I have friends and family in the States. I have an Android phone that does not have a carrier. At this time, Google Voice is only available in the U.S. per this page.
Yeah, it looks like it's got limited availability. So outside that, honestly, I know you say Hangouts works like crap on iOS. I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment. I use it on iOS a lot. It's slower than it is on Android, but it's not terrible. It's about comparable with any other messaging app I've used, but it doesn't exist on Windows Phone 8. However, you can use IM Plus or any old Google Talk client, and it works seamlessly with Hangouts. It uses the same APIs, so it still works. It's just not pretty.
See, it's a shame because WhatsApp would have been my answer because that's what we use at trade shows to keep in touch across, because we're all carrying different stuff. And
I'll pull my hair out.
No, it worked really well. I don't know what your beef is with it. It worked great at CES for us. Like it actually never failed us once. It was awesome.
I don't like it. I think I'm the only person on the planet that doesn't like WhatsApp. I'm pretty sure that's me.
I think you're right. Stephen, I have no idea what you just tried to say to me.
A bias. I don't know what that means.
Neither do
bias.
It means be back in a second.
I thought
you were calling us biased because we didn't like WhatsApp or we did like WhatsApp. Okay. So anyway,
you're biased.
You're biased. So that's what I'm saying in the comments now to any bias post. You biased.
I really need to be back in a.
So WhatsApp, it would be my reco, but then the thing that trips me up with this question is that it doesn't support multi-SIM. Now, in the States, multi-SIM is just not even on the radar. Like I don't think I've ever played with a multi-SIM phone. So, boy, that's tough. So you don't have Google Voice available in Germany. You don't want to do WhatsApp because it doesn't support multi-SIM, and Hangouts doesn't work to your expectations. Taylor, you had the best compromise answer, I think. If there's a better answer, Stephen is back, everyone. If there's a better answer out there, commenters, please leave it in the comments so that we can help out Death Metal Mods here, because this is a tough question that I think probably has a more adequate answer somewhere out there.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it probably does.
I mean,
also, no more Babias.
Welcome back, Babias. What were you saying, Steve?
You could just use email instead of instant messaging or texting, but...
Is this 1980?
I know.
All right. Well, we have a lot of listener mail from back in the day as well. Like, we have listener mail from back in October that we never got to, and I kind of don't want to favor too heavily the more recent submissions, even though they're probably more relevant on the whole.
Do you think, guys, Nokia is ever going to make a Lumia tablet? What are your predictions?
Exactly. This is we get a lot of kind of messages regarding speculation about the future, and that's part of what we do. You know, it's understandable, but if we're not careful, we can get into a really endless descending spiral into a bunch of unsupported speculation if we're not careful. So let's just look at this. This is from William Lee, real quick. One of our earliest writers in, by the way, who was one of our first emailers ever to the Pocketnow Weekly. He says, "Hello, Pocketnow. Since Android 5.0 is right around the corner, never mind KitKat, I have a thought to share. Using CyanogenMod 10.1, which is basically stock Android, I felt like the OS is very inconsistent. The themes don't go together, the UI is dark, where it should be light, and it doesn't bother me to type using a black keyboard in a white Gmail app, but switching between settings and Gmail is just ridiculous. Hope you can discuss this along with other features Pocketnow thinks should be in 5.0. You guys do a great job. Keep it up. And a huge thank you to Joe for his very helpful replies to all my 9 emails." Joe Levi, MVP of emails. Regards, William Lee. William, always good to hear from you. Guys, do you, off the top of your head, just to keep this simple, Pocketnow 5.0, Android 5.0, what's it got to have to keep you interested? Or to really hook your attention at first? I mean, go ahead.
I'm sure I'm going to get some sort of fanboy comment.
Sure.
Never fails, but I am actually very, very content with Android as it is right now. That doesn't mean I don't want them to improve it, but I'm content with how it looks. I love the Google Play Edition or Google Play Experience Launcher. Mm-hmm. I love the way the notification is now, with the exception of how I explained it should be in the video. That's one thing I do want them to change. I love how it was something I covered the other day, and I can't even think of it. But there are a lot of things that they're improving very slowly, and they're kind of refining it to a point where it's a very polished operating system, whereas a year ago it wasn't. You know, they were just then kind of integrating this new UI, and things were kind of contradicting and contrasting and kind of going in different directions, and they've kind of unified everything. There are some things that need improving still. Like the Gmail app itself needs to be improved. I would love a universal inbox because I have so many Gmail accounts, but there are tiny things like that. But I think most of those are external from Android itself and more apps that need to be updated, like Google Voice, Gmail, Hangouts with Google Voice integration, the Google Plus app, things like that. But for me right now, there's not a lot that I think they need to do. More of it's going to be kind of innovating at this point rather than fixing stuff, because they've fixed a lot. So
I am very glad you took that position, Taylor, because I didn't want to say pretty much the same thing and come off as sounding lazy, like, oh, it's good enough now, they don't need to change anything, because they could introduce new things, and especially like you were talking about these services or apps changing. But as far as fundamental features to the platform go, I'm not really seeing any. I'm not complaining about big missing things. Like we've been talking about how great it will be for Windows Phone 8 to finally get a notification center in 8.1, but there's nothing like that I have in mind for Android. That it's just like there's no hole that needs to be filled.
Yeah.
So, I've been silent because I've been maintaining this list of like little problems I have with all OSs,
but they're little things
that aren't really right.
Yeah.
But they're not really worth complaining about in and of themselves. But taken together, they make the experience less interesting. Like, I don't know really, Taylor, if I agree that I like all of the changes in the new thing. You can go back and read the Nexus 5 review for my position on this, and I really like a lot of what Google has done with the custom launcher on the Nexus 5, and I like some of the changes they've made to Android, but some of them that I found shiny and delightful at first, like the new dialer, I no longer enjoy as much. I go into the dialer and I'm confused. I back out to the landing page of Hangouts, like beyond the list of messages, and I'm similarly confused. I'm like, this is pretty. Yes, this looks nice. This is a white canvas with like faces of people I care about, but that's not how my brain has been conditioned to work. And if you want to change the way my brain works, then you have to do it all throughout the OS. You have to do something like crazy, like sailfish, and then I'm going to be like, I'm way too confused. So, I think there's a lot of little tweaks that can be made throughout Android that can make it better on the whole. For me, my number one thing would be the ability to move the notification shade, because it's so stupid for it to be up there in this land of jumbo phones. So, I don't know. I don't like building. This is a great question for Adam Dowd, because he likes whipping up like Photoshop renders of what OSs should look like and stuff. But
I do too. I don't get any credit for that. Jerk.
No.
Oh, that video that I made on why the Android notification shade is a mess.
Yes.
I got like 500 comments asking how I moved those the ongoing notifications to the quick settings page. just everyone was like, how did you do that? How did you do that? And I'm like, Photoshop? actually, not even Photoshop. Preview. I just took 2 screenshots and superimposed one on the other.
MS Paint all the way.
Yes. Like I freehand drew it and scanned it in.
No, that's really cool. I mean, like, you're right. You like doing that too. And I don't know.
Jerk.
I think that's where it is. I think there's little changes like that, like 10 at a time, implemented and shown as a whole. That's kind of, I think, what we're going to be seeing from 5.0. I don't think we're going to see a massive overhaul. But like I said, this isn't really our best area. Like, everyone can just speculate baselessly, but...
Yeah, I mean, I could whip up an editorial with, given like an hour of thought, I could whip up all the things that I wish they would do, the futuristic features that don't quite exist yet, and all kinds of different things, but to what end? That's only going to create some sort of false hope for what's going to happen.
Right, and the interesting stuff would be not these iterative changes or fixing things that we just don't quite like the implementation now, but, new and just completely unexpected things that we really can't guess about without some better insight.
Yeah. So let's move on to stuff we can comment on more solidly. William, thank you for stretching our brains and challenging us with that. But why don't we get?
I was just going to add really quickly that
Taylor was just going to add something.
Of course,
surprisingly.
Yes. Well, no, it just hit me. I think they're going to add more. They're going to start building in art support. And moving away from Dalvik. So you'll see that, and you'll see some performance improvements and battery life improvements. But I think, honestly, right now at this point, a lot of the changes are going to be behind the scenes. And they've been that way for the last year. They've been making small changes up front and improving with Project Butter and art and all kinds of other things for a more polished experience. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to continue that. But what were you saying, Michael? I feel like you were saying something.
Stephen Shank.
Yes, sir.
Let's move on to a mail that you have selected.
Well, if we must. How about one from Matthew Miller? Matthew says, I love the show. Been listening to it ever since I found out about it in the summer. And I love that your podcast is almost always over an hour long. Oh, it's usually much over an hour, Matthew.
As will this one be, yes.
It gives me something to listen to while I do homework. Well, we aim to please. So the iOS 7 jailbreak came out on Sunday, and I'm going to jailbreak my iPhone 5S anyway. My question for you is this. Does jailbreaking still have a place in the iOS community? After all, iOS has adapted many older jailbreaking features to be part of the system, such as SB settings became the control center in iOS 7, and even the App Store itself came from jailbreaking. However, there are still other features from jailbreaking that Apple hasn't made part of the system yet, such as quick reply from Byte SMS or hands-free Siri with hands-free control. So, do you think that jailbreaking still has its place in the iOS community? Thank you for reading this, and good luck in 2014. Well, good luck to you too, Matthew.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew.
Does jailbreaking still matter?
Well, I didn't read into it. I didn't read into a lot of the Cydia stuff or the jailbreak. But I did see Jaime post on Twitter that this jailbreak does not include Cydia. So I don't understand the point.
Yeah, really. Isn't Cydia the reason you jailbreak?
Yeah, right.
Like, fundamentally, like to get access to those unsupported apps.
Let me quickly read
Cydia
on this.
makes it easy to access them, but you could still manually.
Yeah, if you're like a champ, if you're one of those guys that buys an iPhone to like tweak with it. I feel like that's the endangered species now. Like, it used to be that Android hackers and modders and rooters and so on were like, oh man, they're super nerds. But now it feels like that's just indelibly associated with Android. Like, even regular people are starting to talk to me like, oh yeah, Android. Like, so I got an Android phone and I downloaded some launcher, and I replaced the launcher. And it's like, yeah, that's not crazy hackery to us, but to the common folks, like, replacing a launcher used to be a big deal, and now it's nothing. But I feel like the person who actively jailbreaks an iOS device now is the person who really, really is striving to do something crazy different.
Well, honestly, I think a lot of the drive is for piracy.
Oh,
yeah. I actually just Googled iOS 7 jailbreak. That's it. And two things came up. One was the headline is Evasion iOS 7 jailbreak funding supplied by Chinese app piracy site.
That whole thing.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then the other one is GeoHot said iOS 7 jailbreak has not been backdoored by China, but still there are some pirated apps, and that's kind of the whole point. Is they want to kind of circumvent paying for apps, and that for me is
there's always going to be a certain community of users who are interested in this, and they're going to only care about the jailbreak for the sake of putting free games on their phone rather than getting features that aren't necessarily part of the operating system. Just because of that, it's always going to be around. It may shift and it become more about the pirates and less about people actually adding value to iOS and tweaking the interesting stuff. That could change, but it's not going to go away.
Okay, so Cydia is now available. So
right.
Yep, I just found that it said as new iOS Cydia app store is available, as a new iOS 7 supported Cydia app is available.
So our position is basically that the focus in iOS jailbreaking has turned more toward illegal activities than actually tweaking the experience. Is that what it is?
I don't know. I don't have enough.
Well, with Cydia there, it's there's still going to be a lot of tweaks, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's.
You can change the icons, and you can change the way that your icons are formatted, or right now they're left to right, top to bottom. You can change them to be able to. You can put them anywhere, kind of like on Android. So you can still tweak some things and change stuff around. Like they have, I think one of my favorite was a Pip-Boy 3000 theme that you could install. So there's still a lot of cool things that you can do with it, but it's not to the extent you can customize Android.
Honestly, there are some users who are always going to want to jailbreak, unlock their devices just by principle. They want to have they want a phone that's been opened up. They like to they want to damn the man, and just for the sake of doing it, even if they're not spending a lot of time tweaking their settings or installing these third-party apps. Some people just like to do this. They're the enthusiasts.
Sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's I think that's about as good an answer as we can give. Matthew, thank you for the listener mail. That's an interesting question. I wish I could speak more to iOS. I just I just need to get more excited about it. I tried to move back into my iPhone 5C the other day, guys. I switched on to a Nano SIM, and I was like, all right, I've been using the X for a while. I'm very happy with the Moto X. Let me dump this into the iPhone so my girlfriend and I can FaceTime or whatever you people do.
She's an iPhone user?
She is, yeah. She's a 4S and or a 4. I can never remember. I think it's a 4S.
Buy her a new phone.
Well, I went back into the iPhone, and then it challenged me for all my authentications again. And then I'm going through the Google two-step thing, and then it's starting to bother me about iMessage, and I'm like, I don't really want to do that. And then it pops up another thing. I'm like, you know what? I can't. I just 20 minutes later, I popped the SIM back into my Moto X, and I can't do it anymore. So I really want to, because I was excited to get the 5C. I was excited to carry an iPhone again for the first time in 5 years, but it's just.
I still carry one, but I don't. I only use it to take pictures. That's really I carry a.
You object to the QX10 because it would be one other thing to carry around.
yeah, pretty much. I'm a walking hypocrite and oxymoron and everything else.
Hypocrisy alert! Hey, who's next?
I mean, I don't mind iOS. I just I always reach for the Moto X to do everything because I like the browser better, and I have unlimited data on the T-Mobile SIM. So it's. Whatever, but I have an email here that we should answer because I wrote an editorial about it earlier this week.
Yeah, you go ahead, but I'm going to get annoyed here because James Lanik had another email into us that was way cooler.
You get indignant.
I just read this email and I'm like, oh sweet, it's a Galaxy Note 3 versus G2 email. I want to read it, and then it's from James, and we already read one of his, so we can't. But I liked his earlier question.
We'll store it for next week.
Galaxy Note 3, James. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, so I wrote this editorial and published it on Christmas Day, and admittedly I have not looked back at it to read the comments because I'm afraid. Because I wrote about I actually wrote about it in a positive light, but it wasn't until the last sentence that it was positive, and I did that kind of. Yeah, it was. The headline was something about Windows Phone should developers be skeptical of Windows Phone.
Yeah, I saw that headline and I saw the number of comments. I'm like, this has got to be an Adam Dowd piece. Oh no, it's a Taylor.
No, it was mine, and I actually spun it in a positive way. So go read that. But the question here is from Alex Dean. Hi guys, first of all, well done with the podcast. I enjoy listening as often as I can, and the difference in opinion between you all creates a great discussion and makes for interesting listening Keep it up.
Thanks, Alex.
I'm gonna work on my reading abilities here and slow down a little bit.
Good.
At least I'm not getting to that like dystonia I did in that last email from a few weeks back. Like I was reading the words backwards. I don't know what I was doing. My question this week regards Microsoft and the supposed app gap. I remember reading a statement a few months ago that surmised that the reason a lot of apps don't get released on Windows Phone platform or Windows platforms, at least initially, is the fact that many of today's developers grew up with a prejudice against Microsoft, and in turn the same generation of consumers avoid buying Microsoft-made products for the same reason. To what extent do you feel this is true, and do you feel this prejudice is warranted? What are your individual opinions on Microsoft as a company and their products from a hardware-software perspective, if apps were not a factor? Many thanks, Alex Dean. First, that is a great question.
Yeah.
That is a very great question, and it's very in-depth and concise. So we should applaud Alex Dean for that. That was
great.
That was very good.
Very nice.
I kind of feel a lot of that bias and prejudice. I don't feel that way myself, but I get kind of the sense that others do. And I've talked about this before, like when people see Windows 8 before they use Windows Phone, they see Windows 8, they see the reaction that people have had to Windows 8, and then they see Windows Phone and they make that association and they just, write it off. And I think that's kind of Microsoft's hurdle right now.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't use Microsoft products. That's not because I don't like them. I use, a MacBook, I use Android and iOS, but it's been probably 5 years since I've actually used a Windows product full-time exclusively. I mean, I use the 1020 from time to time, but it's very rare. So this question is probably better for someone else, but
well, to me, this is a two-part question. So why don't you answer the first part, which is, do we think this is true? Do we think developers grew up with an anti-Microsoft bias, and do we think that has factored into the Microsoft app gap?
I think marginally so. I think there is that sort of bias from some, or prejudice from some developers, but I think a lot of it is encapsulated in the editorial I wrote, where the average developer is making like $6,000 per month on iOS apps per app. So per developer per app, they're making like $6,000 a month on iOS apps. It's like $4,700 on Android, and then it's like $2,000 on Windows Phone. The problem is it's catch what?
That's the thing. I know you're about to say the chicken and the egg thing, because
it's a catch-22 because Microsoft, there are not enough developers creating great apps for people to want to switch over and buy Windows Phone, but yet there aren't enough people buying Windows Phone to support the developers to make beautiful apps.
Right.
So it's this roundabout that's slowly resolving itself because Microsoft is paying developers to make apps.
Right. And then you have other initiatives, like grassroots initiatives like Nokia made, where they kind of were soliciting, like Instagram, where it's like to Insta with love, the hashtag thing, where it's these kind of PR stunts that raised awareness of this problem. And who knows what role that actually played in Instagram finally coming around to Windows Phone. And then you have really great third-party developers now showing what is possible on the Windows Phone platform, where you had SixTag, which was the Instagram app by Rudy Hune. I don't know how to say his last name still, but which was an outstanding, and still is an outstanding Instagram app that kind of obviated the need for an official app for a while. And then he also did SixSnap, which is the Snapchat app, which is just as good. So, Windows Phone has finally come around to start showing what it's capable of, and that's how it's resolving itself now. But Taylor, I'll disagree with you. I don't think that it's a result of developers having an anti-Microsoft bias to begin with, or at least I don't think that's been a significant factor. I think it's all about the money, as you were saying.
Yeah, it is.
Historically, there's been, the anti-Microsoft backlash was probably biggest in the mid to late 90s, when they had all that antitrust stuff about them with Internet Explorer. Mm-hmm. And even then, and this is before there was the big resurgence in Mac popularity, but developers were still developing for Windows because that's where the users were and that's where the money was. So I don't think that necessarily these feelings about Microsoft being evil or not wanting to be associated with the company are necessarily getting in the way of the development of software. What happened now is just a response to the differences in user numbers and who's buying apps, and it just doesn't make as much sense.
Sure. And
I agree.
I have to say, as much of a fan of Windows Phone as I am, and I really am, if I were a developer, unless I'm a hobbyist or unless I'm a rich developer with a lot of time on my hands, I have to make a choice. I have to look at the situation and say, God, I could make a lot more money bringing my Starfleet communicator app to iOS than I could trying to dump it on Windows Phone. And it's an entirely different coding approach. It's an entirely different, set of rules and everything. And go ahead.
I was going to say that there was actually a prejudice against Android in the beginning, and what I mean by that is there are still a lot of developers out there who create amazing applications, and those developers could make a lot of money if they would just develop Android apps, but they have this either deep-seated hate for Google, or they feel that coding for Android is a major headache because of all the different devices and hardware and resolutions and display sizes and all that other stuff that you have to code for. But we've seen time and time again that some of the best developers out there are saying that it's not true. If you code properly, it's not true. But yet I think one of the best examples is Tweakbot from the company Tapbots. The developer, or the guy who started Tapbots, said he will pretty much never develop for Android. He has probably one of the most popular Twitter clients out there, period. But he said he will not develop for Android until Google quits being evil or something like this. I don't know. So Android has ran into the same kind of prejudice, and I think it exists. It exists for Android developers who don't want to code for iOS. It exists for iOS developers who don't want to code for Windows Phone or Android, and vice versa. Any way you can look at that, there's going to be some sort of prejudice. Every developer, every company, every person has some degree of bias against something.
Can't we all just get along?
Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is, even if it exists, there are people who are willing to overlook that to see, the business side of things, how they can make more money by supporting more things and supporting more users. And right now, the problem with Windows Phone is that significantly, or it has significantly smaller numbers. You're still looking at a 3.4% global market share, which is not insignificant. That's right. Several million users, right. But it's also very, very comparatively small.
Yeah.
So Android is at 82%.
It's absurd. But
apples and giant apples.
So that leads into the second part of the question. What are your individual opinions on Microsoft as a company and their products from a hardware-software perspective if apps were not a factor? And in terms of this, I'll just answer first, and I'll try to be quick about it. When I bought a Lumia 920 as my first personal Windows phone since the Samsung Focus. And I've always liked Windows Phone. I've always liked that it is different. Quite frankly, I've liked it because it is not as widely adopted. I like having something that's a little bit of an underdog, or something that not everyone has.
That's the definition of a hipster.
Right. And I also wear a lot of plaid and judge your music tastes all the time. But no, that's a personal preference for me. But beyond that, I wouldn't put up with that if I couldn't use the OS and if I didn't like the OS. So I really, really like what Microsoft has done with Windows Phone. It needs a refresh, and it desperately needs a refresh, and it's getting more market every week, it feels like. But I still really like it a lot. And but I think it's important to note that I like it in spite of the fact that it's a Microsoft product. So, Alex, to tell you the truth, I don't think terribly highly of Microsoft's PR initiatives.
Oh.
Not our relationship with their PR department. I want to make this clear. I'm talking about their advertising. I don't think
marketing is, for a lack of better words, sleazy.
It really is. I mean, they just kind of go for the throat on Google when they don't need to. They attack the Chromebooks when they're not really even serving the same market, and when the Chromebook is such an insignificant portion of Google's layout. The Scroogled thing is childish and
insecure.
It really is. It's just and it's Microsoft. You know what I mean? If this is a company that's small and naive and new, then I could see them making a stupid mistake like this. But this is just dumb. This is an example of somebody inside saying, "Let's be bold" or whatever, and there being insufficient people to stand there and say, "No, this is sleazy and it makes us look bad," and that's exactly what it does.
I tweeted, and it got a lot of positive response. You don't market why someone else's stuff is bad. You market why yours is great or better.
Yeah.
And you don't directly mention them. You just say, ours is better.
Right.
And you explain cohesively why, not just ours is better because theirs sucks. And that's really all Microsoft does.
Politics? What are we talking about?
Yeah.
And if you do decide to do an attack ad, then you have to do it with a modicum of... There has to be a kind of a self-deprecating element to it, or a really non-serious bent to it. You can't have people walking around on the street just crowing about who's better, who's worse. Like those Apple ads that everyone rushes to compare these two with what's his name, Justin Long, and with I'm a PC, I'm a Mac. Those ads, like those were tongue-in-cheek. Those were fun, and they really got old quickly. But at least they weren't just straight up like you're getting screwgold, and they're painfully unfunny. Is the current attack ads that are running, and they're not any fun. So I don't know.
I agree.
I think Microsoft has a perception problem. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that to me kind of changes how I feel about Microsoft as a company, but it doesn't change how I feel about their products.
Yeah. What do you feel about their products? Because for me, that's the obstacle. The products themselves I like a lot, unless you're talking about Windows 8, in which case I don't like a lot.
If the Surface Pro 2 were cheaper, I would own one.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not going to pay $1,000 for a tablet. That's right. Just it doesn't matter if the tablet is comparable to a PC that's $1,000. It's a tablet, so I have this predisposition to want to pay less for it.
Right. Would you get a Surface 2 though?
No.
Because of Windows RT?
I don't want an RT product. If I want Windows, if I want to use Windows, I want to use Windows. I don't want to use Windows Lite.
See, if you had gotten the 2520 like you were supposed to, I think you might have you might not have changed your mind, but you might have softened on that a bit, because that's what I did. I really liked Windows RT a lot better on a product on a piece of hardware that I felt served it better, and that was the 2520. So.
Well, that's fair. I haven't used Windows RT. I've used Windows 8. I haven't used Windows RT.
You haven't used Windows RT? Oh, so who cares what you think about Windows RT? Yeah, get out of here.
I'm not in a position to say Windows RT sucks, but I've read a lot about it, and a lot of people don't like it.
You're swept up in the wave of, and I was there too. But like I said, once I used the 2520, I was like, I could actually live with RT now that things are... I wouldn't necessarily like my life, but I could do it. Anyway, Stephen, what do you think? We should wrap this up, and we haven't spoken much.
I don't think I've ever had really positive feelings about Microsoft as a company, and in spite of that, I've been using Windows as my primary OS going back to 1994 at this point, and it's just a very utilitarian issue. Windows has the apps that I'm looking for, and I keep coming back to it. I haven't upgraded to Windows 8 because I think it's a mess, but I'm still stuck to the Windows ecosystem, and I think I'm going to be a part of that regardless of how many stupid ads Microsoft runs. It's the software that matters and has what I'm looking for.
See, there you go. That's a nice way to put a bow on it there. I mean, ultimately it's whether the product works for you or it doesn't. And spoiler alert, I'll have an editorial out about how the Lumia 1020 is my New Year's Eve phone this year, because I still like it. I mean, I carry two phones. I carry the Moto X and the 1020, and I really, really like Windows Phone, despite its shortcomings. So, yeah. Just need more games and a People in Me hub that works, and I'll be happy. And a couple other
my
things.
New Year's phone will probably just be the Moto X. Camera sucks.
Camera sucks. That's a problem.
Camera sucks, but I'll deal with it.
But that's okay. You'll have an iPhone in your other pocket, right?
Man, I got to get New Year's Eve plans first before I can worry about what phone I'm bringing. One thing at a time, guys.
That's a good point. One thing at a time.
We'll just come to Super Carolina. We're doing a bowling party thing.
As long as there's a fire pit somewhere,
we'll have a boil.
Some barbecue sandwiches, and a boil, I'm set.
Strip bowl.
Speaking of New Year's Eve, we have a 2013 question. I love this. Very short email from our friend, first-time writer, as far as I can tell, BK. Yo, the name's Brian. Just have a simple question for you guys. What are your number one smartphone of 2013 and why? Hopefully everyone on the podcast answers individually. By the way, love the weekly. Have a great day and cheers. Cheers to
Hands
you,
down.
BK.
That's a very easy question to answer for me.
I think in spite of this, though, we should try to answer all at once in unison.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Everyone start talking.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be the HP Veer. What is it, Taylor? What were you saying?
Moto X for me. Hands down. It's indicative of how Android doesn't have to be crappy. on not great hardware. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't have to be over the top and excessive in every single way to be a great phone. And the Moto X was really kind of the first phone to show that. Motorola innovated in different ways and not claiming innovation by just packing a phone with more cores, faster clock speeds, a giant amazing camera or so-called amazing camera. They just kind of went modest on just about every single level and produced one of the most popular, at least press-wise and review-wise, and well-liked phones of the year.
For as much crap as we often give manufacturers for getting one or two little things wrong about a phone design, really just throwing hardware at the problem is the easy way out. And you're right, we should give Motorola credit for taking a more complicated but maybe more pleasing when they gave us a more satisfying result. It's a phone that you feel better about.
Yeah, that and they added the whole customization thing to it. I mean, that gets more credit than it should, but who else is doing it? Like, who else is letting you pick and choose your colors? No one. It's not that innovative. It's not mind-blowing, but no one else is doing it.
I think I mentioned this once, that very same point, and sure enough, one commenter fired back with some, probably not even that obscure, but some Chinese OEM I had no idea was doing this, released some phone, not totally custom, but it came in like 45 different colors from the manufacturer. I'm like, well, crap. There goes my argument for the Moto X.
There's always going to be that one commenter who reads way too far into something and digs to the
that happens. Welcome to the internet, right? That's what we have to
they're like,
with.
You're wrong because this happened 20 years ago.
Yeah. But you're right. No, I think the customization is an important part of it. And are we going to be this like monolithic in our responses? I wish we were able to get some more people on the show today, because I can't think of a phone I would say other than the Moto X. I mean, I've handled some great devices this year. I obviously love the 1020, as I said before. The G Flex basically I would have married it if it were sentient.
If it weren't LG's review loaner, I would have probably taken a torch to it.
If it weren't LG's review loaner, I would have stolen it and run away with it.
And married it.
That display was so
Shut up. Just shut up. So it wasn't your top phone of 2013? Oh, yeah. Good to know. Yeah. Nice, Steven.
I didn't hear what you said.
Brandon Returneman. So the G Flex I loved. No, there's so many phones I loved, but so few of them this year have stuck with me in the way the Moto X has. I mean, people are tired of hearing about this, but I chose the wrong color for my Moto X faceplate. I made it white, and it's profoundly ugly, I think. But from the side and back, it's beautiful, but from the front, it's really ugly. And despite that, and despite the fact that I dropped it and dinged it up like, whoa, I still love carrying the thing just because it's so comfortable, and because of the 17 reasons you guys just mentioned for why the Moto X is important and great. And it would have to be my answer as well.
Yeah, well, I lost my gray one, which I love so much, and I ordered a black one. You
lost your Moto X?
I don't know where it is. I looked for it.
Oh, you didn't lose it. Yeah, you just can't find. You didn't lose it. It's just not. You'll find it.
Okay, well, it was in my office, and now it's not.
Well, it's going to be back. It's going right now. My Moto X is right next to me, telling me that people want to talk to me about stuff. I'm like, I'm busy.
Well, I ordered a woven black and red accented Moto X, thinking that I'd never touched a woven back one. And I was thinking it was actually textured, that it was actually like a
like the Kevlar on the
like I thought it would be like a kind of a textured Kevlar, but it's just a print.
Ew.
Woven. Like,
wait,
it's not actually
about?
The woven back on the black woven back on the Moto X.
It's not a print.
It's like
it's got a coating over it. That's what you're feeling there.
Yeah, but I'm saying it feels like a print, like a sticker. It doesn't feel like
it's not, though.
It's not, but I feel like it almost feels like.
Did you want it to feel like a manila rope on a ship?
Ooh.
I wanted it to feel rough and grippy, and it's grippy, but I wanted it to feel textured. Like,
did you want it to fray after the fifth time you put it in your pocket and took it out?
Yes, I did.
Did you want it to get like a worn denim look? Oh, by the way, remember the denim rumors, guys? Remember the denim material that was rumored? I would so buy it. I would get some Moto X for my jorts.
Say no to jorts. Always say no to jorts.
So let's move on. This was a great question, but I think we all answer the same way. Stephen,
I did not answer.
Stephen didn't answer yet.
No,
I bet Stephen's going to say. I think I know what you're going to say. I think I know what you're going to say.
I have to say Nexus 5.
I knew you were going to say Nexus 5.
The only phone I've had significant experience with firsthand this year. I've heard so much about the Moto X and have written so much about it. I have not laid hands on the thing yet. It sounds so incredibly compelling. I mean, I was tempted to even just give the answer for consistency here, so we would all say it. But no, I got to go with Nexus 5. It improved over Nexus 4 in all the ways that mattered to me. You know, in spite of the warnings about the 1080p is going to ruin the battery. No, battery life is so much better than the Nexus 4. The speakers, despite the first generation with the holes that are too small, so much louder than the Nexus 4. It delivered in every way I hoped it could have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I've got to return this Moto X, I believe, mainly because the volume rocker is kind of flush with the edge for whatever reason. And the way they're doing their returns on the ones that had the $150 promotion is that you have to order another or start the return process. So you have to return it and ship it back to them. And then you have to order another. And then when they receive that unit, you get credited back for the full price. So you're having
right. So
in my case, I'll have to pay $550.
So don't end up in a situation where you have to do a return exchange. That's the moral
So
of the
get
story.
the one you want to begin with. Right. But I'm having to do that, and I'm thinking that now that it's so late and I don't really have the money to buy a new one, I'm probably going to go with a 32 gigabyte white Nexus 5. So
God,
the white one.
Yeah,
so
I haven't used the black one. I like the white one.
You like the glossy sides on that thing?
I would prefer the matte sides on the white. I don't know why they went glossy. I really don't.
No, it's a good looking phone. I guess I'm just so tired of hearing about it. Maybe I'm just too much of a contrarian to truly love the Nexus 5.
You're too hipster.
That's exactly it.
Mm.
Your pants are too tight.
My jorts are too acid washed. The awesome piece of news I want to tell you, boys, is that we heard back from a previous listener mail submitter named Anthony Nardiello. Anthony. Thank you for all of your advice. You may recall, listeners, that Anthony wrote into us asking how to convince his dad to get him an Nexus 5, right?
Yeah,
his dad's fundamental objection to buying an Nexus 5 an Nexus 7 rather, is that Anthony already had an iPod Touch. So why should he need a Nexus 7?
A several-year-old iPod Touch, we should mention, not even a current gen.
Yeah, and we were all like, on the last episode of the show, we were like, oh man, there are so many ways to. I think we spent like 20 minutes coming up with arguments for Anthony, and he says, "Thank you for all your advice. It was really helpful in convincing my dad. I used Michael Fisher's analogy to explain the differences to him. It worked so well that I got the Nexus for Christmas. Keep up the good work, guys. Hooray." Golf claps all around. Anthony, we're very glad that worked out for you. That is awesome news. And anytime you need help convincing your parents to buy you technology, anyone, just write on in. But we're really glad to hear that. Thank you for filling us back in. And now it's someone else's turn to read the listener mail, the next piece.
I think I can find one here.
Yeah? All right.
Did you see the email from someone else telling Anthony how he can convince his dad?
I didn't read that. I saw that.
Yeah.
What was the advice? Was it worth mentioning?
Yeah, can we mention it?
It says, this worked for my cousin, but it requires a lot of time on the TV. So if you really want the Nexus 7, follow these steps. Turn on your TV, watch a lot of TV shows, do not skip the advertisements until you see the Nexus 7 ads with a kid using it for studying purposes. Record that show on your DVR. Make the whole family watch it.
Education thing, yeah.
Yeah, make the whole family watch it like family TV night or something. And do not skip the advertisement. When the ad comes up, say, I wish I had that tablet so I can do my presentation and all those school things that kid is doing. Look at your dad.
You know what I love about this?
Eyes until he says yes.
I feel like this happened to
arrive.
This guy.
What I love about this is that it's like it's subtle. You know, the parent will be none the wiser.
Yeah. Wait for the Nexus 7 to arrive and use it.
No. You film your own Nexus 7 commercial. Make it even more educational than the official one. Pay $200,000 to have it air in major markets, and then you get your parents to buy a Nexus 7.
Well, if you film it, then don't you already have one? How are you going to make
Shut up. That's why.
Listen, Taylor, there is nothing wrong with a plan to spend $200,000 on a commercial to buy a $300 product, all right?
Big picture stuff. Come on.
Oh, it's good.
You can film an ad with a
turn?
cardboard cutout of one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
How about...
Can I ask a general question really quickly?
Yeah,
based on
you haven't been talking enough, yes.
Oh, of course.
Chime in.
Don't be shy,
sorry.
Taylor.
Sorry I've been so absent today.
Yeah.
I wrote an editorial yesterday, or kind of a how-to get the Google Dialer on non-Nexus phones. Mm-hmm. Now, I know your stance on this, Michael. You said you hate this dialer. How do you feel about that, Stephen? Because I actually really kind of like it. No. It's just kind of half implemented.
A friend of mine mentioned your article yesterday. He hadn't heard about this, and I took that opportunity to spout the horrible, vile things I have to say about it. I don't care for it. I prefer the old one. Like Michael said, I find it's not intuitive. I'm also not a huge fan of Google, knowing everyone who's calling me. I would have rather just left well enough alone. I don't even think the features that it introduces add value to me, at least. But
yeah, my problem with it is like when you search a place, you only get 3 search results. So and for some reason they don't even come up correctly sometimes.
I don't use that aspect of it at all. I'm just for incoming calls. I don't like the automatic searching for unknown numbers.
Like when I first opened it, and even now to this day, like I open it and I'm kind of overwhelmed. Like, what am I looking at? Because there's kind of prompts saying, how to do this, and then you can dismiss the prompt and you can swipe to close things, and it's just like, wait a minute, it's overwhelming. But in a year from now, if we use this long enough, are we going to go back to an old dialer and just be like, what? Kind of like, switching to a dial pad from, rotary dial.
Rotary dial, yeah. Right.
Yeah, like, are we going to go back, 3 years from now and say, like, wow, this is so stupid. Why would we ever do this?
Yeah.
Has anyone done that, I wonder? Have we seen, like, a touchscreen rotary dialer?
Oh, totally.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, people have done it. I think there were some restrictions early on. Like, some of the first ones were just, like, touch. It was a rotary pad image where you tap it, right?
Yeah.
But then there are... I think I've seen some spinning ones, but I don't know. Like, a lot of OSs give you access to the dialer. No, that's not true. Because they do. Because the Star Trek Communicator app lets you dial from within it. I don't know. That's a good question.
The only thing for me is how is having it's kind of intuitive, but not really. But how is having search for business in your dialer any more helpful than just using Google Now? That's the thing for me, because with Google Now, I get more results. Or if I go to Google Maps, I get more results, more than just 3. That's the thing for me. Like that's why I feel it's half implemented. If it were like you search the business and you get all the information and all the businesses nearby rather than just the top 3, then it would be better. I can
understand the desire to streamline it. If you know that you're unfamiliar what you're looking for, then you can get those richer results. But this, I think, is for people who haven't really thought it through. It at least gives them some options.
Yeah, and part of it is, I still struggle with, opening the Google dialer over just going to Google Now or Google Maps to find something. Like, I don't think it's kind of it's not coded in my blood or brain or whatever else to do that. It's not, I'm a creature of habit. I just go to Google Now when I want to know something, whether it's a phone number or where something is,
So there's an app on Android, and there's a ton on iOS, and there's a ton on Android too, but there's one called Rotary Dialer Free, which I'm downloading right now, and it's installing. I believe, it's the screenshots show a variety of different dialers that you can use, like rotary dialers, and they kind of span the generations. And yes, indeed, you can spin the disc, as I am doing right now. Maybe you can hear it. Let's see.
Yes.
Oh yeah, there we go.
I hate to say it, that's pretty hipster to have on your phone, Mike.
Well, then I will leave it installed. And by the way, you should listen to Pinback. No one knows about them. So let's move on to another question, shall we?
Yeah. How about one from John Vincent de los Santos? He writes, "Hey, Pocketnow, you guys are great, and I always look forward into seeing your reviews. I'm Vincent from the Philippines, by the way. And
yes.
Here's what I think. We all know that BlackBerry is a dying platform, mainly due to the lack of apps and features we want in a smartphone. However, many BlackBerry users tend to sideload apps from Android to compromise. BlackBerry 10, I assume here. My question is, why can't BlackBerry be just another Android skin like Sense and TouchWiz? They can still port their great features over, like Unified Inbox, Peek, with BlackBerry keyboard layout. I don't know how they will implement on Android all their QWERTY stuff, but even a refrigerator can have Android these days, so there's got to be a way to make it work. What do you think about this? I'm sure this has been mentioned before. Yeah.
It's QNX or BlackBerry 10 and Android are very closely related in the way that their kernels work. They're kind of plug and play, but I've done it, and Michael has done it. Sideloading an Android app on BlackBerry 10 is possibly one of the worst experiences on a mobile phone that I have ever endured in my entire life.
In fact, it's so bad that when I heard your story, I didn't do it. I actually have not done it.
Oh, you haven't? No. Oh, it's bad. No. It's bad. Like, I sideloaded, I think, Plume. Oh, my gosh. It was so bad.
It's
like, it
Twitter
showed,
app,
like,
right?
Yeah, it showed, like, 1.5 tweets per page. And it just wasn't great. And it might be better on something like the Z10, but on the Q10, it was absolutely horrible. Yeah. And that's kind of a problem when you get an operating system that's meant for a portrait, large display, and you put it on this tiny 4:3 display.
Yeah, but
it's not 4:3; it's 1:1. Yeah,
it's 1:1. But I think that's actually a great idea, and I don't think BlackBerry's ever going to do that because I think they're so headstrong and they don't want to sacrifice dignity to just kill the BlackBerry platform. But
yeah, they have this long-standing brand that's always been an alternate to these other platforms. It would kind of defeat all their work they put into it to just give up the ship and merge into Android.
Plus, we should say, like, architecturally, there are still advantages to the way BlackBerry does things, particularly even if you don't use Bez, like the internet service and stuff like that. Like, it's for some enterprises, BlackBerries are still a smarter way to go than an Android device. That's changing as...
Yeah, that may shift, and other companies will be getting into enterprise services.
Right.
Well, I was reading something probably a year and a half ago, and it might have even been 2 years ago. It was something from Forbes saying that the top Fortune 500 companies, like 90-some% of them had switched to iPhone. It was,
you're going to have to find that before we can decide. That sounds like a hell of a statistic, man.
Yeah.
See if you can dig that up. Because you can do a lot of this. You can port a lot of this to, like, say, call it faux BlackBerry, just, a heavy BlackBerry skin on an Android core. But then, what are the disadvantages to that, right? I mean, most skins don't run well. For all the bad things you can say about BlackBerry 10, like, Kinix is frickin' smooth. It is solid. It is awesome. And generally, the heavier you build a skin on top of Android, the worse it performs. Now, some companies like LG and HTC are able to escape that because HTC Sense and the LG UI are very, very responsive. But, like, you see the Galaxy skin, and it's like, oh, my God, this thing is really laggy and...
Yeah, and the risk is when you try to merge them like this, instead of getting the best of Android and the best of BlackBerry, you also get the worst of both all in one.
Right. And I'm not convinced that some of these features would work as well in the case of a skin riding on top of Android. Like, I don't see Peek operating, perfectly. But I don't know. Maybe that's just because this is too wild. I don't know.
Well, reading this at first, I was ready to just dismiss it as crazy. BlackBerry has no interest in doing this. Their users aren't as interested as I think this would make them seem to be. But thinking about it a little more, wouldn't it be awesome if BlackBerry stepped up to fill the role of the waning QWERTY hardware market for Android? Because they've always had killer keyboards on their phones, and no one's really doing that well these days. I wouldn't want them to brand it like BlackBerry, so I'd have no belief this could ever actually happen, but I think that could be really neat if there was some bizarro world in which this could actually occur.
I agree. Actually, I have the Z30 in my office, and when I picked it up to use it the other day, preparatory to thinking about making a piece, I was like, what are the things I still love about BlackBerry 10 that aren't done elsewhere? How does this differ? And I had written down a couple things I wasn't really happy with, and then I started typing an SMS on the BlackBerry, and I realized that the keyboard is still so good. that touchscreen keyboard with the floating options, like I am so fast on it, and I really, really like it. So
I found that statistic. There are actually several. One is from eWeek. Says Apple iPhone winning Fortune 500 converts, 10 reasons why. But the statistic they cite is on the iPhone side, 60% of the Fortune 500s have tested or deployed Apple's handset. 91 had deployed or tested the iPad.
There you go.
That was from 2011, and in 2012, it's even more.
And also, there's a question: are we talking about using that exclusively, or just it's an option that their employees have?
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still a significant thing.
It's very significant.
iOS has very, very clearly encroached on BlackBerry's enterprise territory, and we've been hearing about Samsung and LG and others creating enterprise-specific software. There a lot of them are jumping on the enterprise bandwagon. So BlackBerry has to learn a new trick. They really do, and they're going to have to do something, especially on the enterprise side, to differentiate, because while their enterprise software is so strong right now, when other companies are seeing that BlackBerry is struggling as a company and as a brand, they're seeing a giant opportunity to flex their own enterprise muscles and come up with their own stuff.
How much must BlackBerry be loving all this bad press that Samsung's Knox has been getting over the past couple of weeks?
So has it been getting? I was just going to bring up Knox, actually, Samsung's security solution. Has it not been working out very well?
Well, there was the report
critical
earlier this week or last week, about some researchers found a potential flaw that would let people not only intercept messages sent via Knox's secure layer, but insert new ones. And there was another one from earlier this month that I don't know the specifics of, but there have been these multiple reports questioning just how secure Knox really is.
It's funny. The only run-ins I've had with Knox as a consumer have been on the Note 3, and every time I fire it up, Knox displays a warning. And I'm like, oh, what's up? And it's like, hey, there's this app on here that might be able to do some pretty crazy stuff. So just letting you know. And then, like, the only option is to go to the app manager, and there's no indication of what app it's talking about. So, like, it's just like, hey, something's funky, man. You should go, have a mechanic look at this.
Is it expecting for you to give it a tip or something?
No, there's no indication of what it means. It's just a little pop-up window that's like, hey, something's wrong, bro.
I made the mistake of enabling Knox on the Note 10.1.
Yeah.
And I spent 20 or 30 minutes trying to disable it. I could never figure out how to do it. I could not disable it. Like, I went through all the settings. I went through everything, and I couldn't disable it. I was just ready to pull my hair out.
Well, it's obviously an area where Samsung has invested a lot of time and money in trying to break into, and I think anytime you enter a new area like this, you're bound to run into challenges. It sucks when it's security and you're saying your thing is secure and it's really apparently not. But and
that's the huge benefit that BlackBerry has. It has these years of experience behind it, and enterprises see it as something that just works. Yeah.
So it's a good question. I don't see it happening, but they said specifically that CEO is now out. Torsten Heinz said on stage at the BlackBerry 10 launch event, he's like, "Yeah, we could have gone to Android. We decided to go our own way." And Taylor, I think you hit it on the head. They're very headstrong. They're very prideful. I don't know. Prideful sounds like it has a negative connotation. I'm not condemning them for this. I mean, they're very proud of what they've accomplished, and they want to stick with that, and they want to keep going their own way. Hasn't worked out for them in a long, long time, and we'll see.
Maybe Nokia will start licensing BlackBerry and making BlackBerry phones.
Wouldn't that be freaking weird? Nokia BlackBerry 10 device. I'd buy it. Hey,
I'd cry.
Shall we move on a little bit? That was a great question. But shall we move on? Whose turn is it?
Ooh, Google just delivered my 2013 year in review. Nice. I don't know whose turn it is. Probably mine, but I haven't been. Yeah. I've been reading through questions, and I can't tell which ones are still unread.
Well, the ones that are marked as unread are still available.
Right. There's only one.
It's a really high level concept there.
Yeah. What do you mean? There's only one.
There's only one left that's unread from this month.
Well, that's why I say we can pick from any month, brother. And there are 3 left from this month. What are you talking about?
We got to get that inbox down to 0 unread.
That's exactly right. We're going to hit inbox 0. Oh, cool. That'll be the title of the podcast. Thanks, Steven.
Inbox 0. Yeah.
Hey.
No, I'm seeing one now.
All right, Taylor, you keep hunting. Figure out how to work Gmail, and then I'll pick one. How's that?
Oh, it works.
Here's an old one from Robert. This is from October 14th. Hello again, says Robert. Robert Hansen. So, what are your thoughts on the Galaxy S5 rumor mill? Is the new and improved fake leather we all love from the Note 3 going to make it onto the S5? Or do you think the Koreans have some new tricks up their sleeve? Maybe more like the HTC One with its aluminum body, or maybe an aluminum back with leather trim. Or will the slimy plastic have its glorious return? Who knows? What do you think? Until next time, greetings, Robert Hansen. I like this because it's like, even though it's a piece of email from October, it's still, we don't have the answer, right?
Yeah, there have been dozens of new leaks and rumors since then, and I'm not sure our answers have any more specificity than they would have had we answered it 2 months ago.
Exactly right. So I figured this would just be a nice, quick one to get out of the way. Robert, no disrespect, it's just a very tough one, and we could sit here for an hour and not get anywhere. But I think your idea, Robert, of an aluminum back with leather trim is something that, A, I would never do because I don't think it would ever work, but B, Samsung might. Because think about it, like they've just invested a lot of effort in the stitched leather thing for the Note 3, and I think you're right, Robert. A lot of people like this.
Have they invested that much in it? It seems like it was thought up in an afternoon. It's just a pattern. They stamped in some plastic.
All right, so maybe it wasn't that long in the incubation process, but I think they've invested a lot in furthering that as a distinction. You know, it was pretty clear that the company had a lot invested in getting away from the hyperglaze, and so at the event where the new notes were announced, like, it was so deep. The integration of this stitching thing, with the call-outs on this were so pronounced that the tables at the event, at the booth, were stitched leather. Like, they really have ingrained that into the Note philosophy, at least. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them bundle that in somehow with an aluminum component.
Man.
But
it would never use real aluminum. It would be fake aluminum and fake leather.
No, what would fake aluminum be?
Well, it would be probably a lot like the chromed out plastic we have now.
Lord.
So I was just thinking of what if the S5 was... I don't think they'll do stitched leather for the S5 because the stitching is a Note thing. It's meant to evoke memories of the Moleskine notebooks and all that stuff. So I don't think we'll see that, but maybe we'll see... You know, if we get the stitching off of there, maybe we'll see some kind of BlackBerry Bold fake leather. Wait, was the Bold fake or was it real leather?
I think it was a fake leather.
Leatherette.
It had to be, because otherwise we would have heard about it from all the activist groups and the...
Naugahyde.
Yeah. I would love a real leather back on a phone, though.
Well, you got to get a Virtu, bro.
Oh, man. Yeah, sorry, I don't have $10,000 laying around for an old phone with like a
take one of those.
Snapdragon.
Maybe if you
take one of those review
Moto
units.
X's, you would.
Yeah, maybe.
I was like, one of my Christmas presents was a genuine leather, like it's almost like a rawhide case for my iPad Air or iPad Mini, and I love it. Like, I took it out of the wrapper and I set it down. I'm like, this is awesome. I set it down. I walked across the apartment, and about 5 minutes later, I could still smell the leather. Like it.
That's what we're missing from our unboxing. We have the great sound when you pull the screen protector down. We don't have the smell. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, man. I can still it's sitting on my desk and I still smell it. Like,
we need a scratch and sniff disbursement
love
pattern.
The smell of leather.
Volatile organic.
All
chemicals.
viewers, please send us your mailing address immediately so we can send you the scratch and sniff for the 2014 unboxings. Thank you.
For Anxious Nerds 3.
Also, for any vegans or vegetarians, I'm sorry, but my love for leather will not change.
There you go. You know, sometimes you just got to be you. So we don't know, Robert, but I think if we see aluminum and leather, it will be not a very good-looking thing. But guys, let me ask you, what do you think if they did like a Note 3 type thing where they didn't do stitch leather, they did leatherette with not fake plastic metal trim, but real aluminum trim? What do you think about that?
I'll tell you what I think. NASCAR rawhide.
Parsing that.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's not an unreasonable thing. I think we could see Samsung try something out like that.
I'd like to see them think outside the box and use new materials.
We all would. But do you see it?
I don't know about that combination.
Yeah. Magnesium.
Ooh, I love magnesium.
Adamantium.
Me too.
Yes.
So
Vapor MG, please.
And oh god, you know, that is good. That is good stuff that Microsoft uses on the Surface.
Yeah.
Play-Doh.
Listen, denim, acid wash denim jorts. All right, let's get away from this, Robert. Thank you. We'll have more in the coming year, I'm sure. Steven, is it your turn, or did Taylor figure out how to work the email yet?
I figured out the computer machine that's in front of me.
Awesome.
This one is from, I guess, an avid listener. We've answered many questions from him over the years, the weeks, I guess is a better way to put that. Alistair Shaw. I believe it's...
Yes.
Alistair Shaw. So he has 2 questions in this email, and I'm going to ignore the first one. Sorry. But we've kind of beat that dead horse. It's about Hangouts and the Google Dialer. So I'm going to skip that. But he said, if you're short on questions for the show and don't like my first question. So this is a very good one, I believe. I didn't read all the way through it, but that's because I'm terrible at doing 2 things. So I'll stop if it starts getting off track. But the first part of the question is great. I'm a bit concerned about the direction Google is taking Android with the new Nexus. MKBHD called this the most Google phone ever, and it does feel just like they are pushing people to use more of their services than ever before. And right, they should. They are a company rightly looking to profit. My issue, though, is that these services may not yet be up to scratching or being forced down the throat of people who do not want them. It goes against the open world of Android, and as I embraced, and seems to set Android more starkly apart from other ecosystems. Is there becoming a choice of you go Google services or Apple or Microsoft, perhaps one day, or Amazon or Samsung? We'll go on. We'll skip a little forward. Sorry for the long email, but I wanted to confirm Nexus 5 battery life does seem to improve, optimize over time. 3 weeks now, it is far less of an issue. So I want to talk about the first bit of this, where Google is taking Android and the new Nexus. And they are shoving Google services down Android users' throats, but definitely more so on the Nexus. And that's what I want to focus on here. A lot of people are calling the dialer the KitKat dialer, and it's actually not, because that's why I wrote that piece yesterday. Mm-hmm. It's the Nexus. It's the Google dialer, and it is available only on Nexus phones. So it's not available on the Google Play Edition phones. It's not available on the Moto X, which is running KitKat. It's not available on just any KitKat phones, only Nexus phones. And there's only the Google Play Edition or Google Play Experience Launcher on Nexus phones and tablets. So you're actually only getting these certain services from Google on certain devices. And for me, that's very strange, since Google, up until this point, has been very much so, this is very bare bones Android, and you don't get that anymore on Nexus phones. You get it on Google Play Edition, but you don't get it on Nexus. You get a Nexus experience. You get a totally different experience. Not totally. You get a slightly different experience than stock Android. And for me, that's kind of...
Yeah, keep me with you. Where are we going with it? Because I like where you're... I think I like what you're saying, but I don't know what you're saying.
I don't really have a point. I'm just saying, yes.
There was a problem. Okay.
I was getting around to saying that I think it's very strange, because for all this time, Google, they've encouraged the use of skins and customized software, but the Nexus and the Google Play Edition has always been about unadulterated Android, no changes, AOSP. And now that's changing. And it's kind of, one, confusing, I think, to consumers, and 2, it's kind of weird, because I think anybody who wants a Google Play Edition device wants that Nexus experience on different hardware, but you're not getting that. And for me, I don't like it. That's just my take on it. If I want an HTC One running Google Play Edition software, I want it to have the exact same experience software-wise as the Nexus 5, but it's not going to get that. And I think maybe a lot of Google Play Edition people are going to be upset over that. Of course, anybody with a Google Play Edition device is probably just going to hack it on there anyway. But
right, but plus you got to read the label before you buy the thing. It's it's not a Nexus device; it's a Google Play Edition device, and it's a different.
But there's
category.
The perception,
right? But I think that was the.
But if it was a Nexus, it would have that name.
It would be a Nexus.
Yeah, if it was a Nexus Edition Sony Xperia Z Ultra, then it would be called a Nexus. It's
but
Google Play.
Google Play Edition and Google Play Experience to me should be synonymous, but they mean 2 totally different things. Like that, do you get what I'm saying?
I do get what you're saying. I understand it. Yeah, I think it's getting a little complex.
Yeah, I think it's a little off what he's asking. At least
I think
from
so too. I don't know what he's asking because we actually read this very listener mail on episode 71, but it is in fact so long that there's plenty of room because we didn't get to any of it.
Well, it was unread. It was unread. I think.
Okay.
So,
well, it's a great email. I don't mean to dog it. It's a wonderful email. It's just so long. Yeah. So, what is the question? And let's answer it.
The question is. Will we instead of it being the Android experience, like choose Android or iOS, is it going to be, I have no idea.
While you were reading that, at least.
I thought I knew where I was going with that.
Yeah, but, I'm not sure I found the actual question in there, but I felt compelled to comment while you were reading the initial question. I kind of get what he was saying about feeling uncomfortable about the Google services being pushed upon users of these devices. I've been tempted to go to a custom ROM, try to find something a little sort of like we used to get from Nexus devices, just more stock feeling, more plain. I haven't, though, because one, I'm kind of lazy, and two, it really works well the way it is now. While I'm uncomfortable with it, I'm not so uncomfortable that I feel a need to change the way I interact with my phone on a daily basis. And I think a lot of users are going to come into that same boat, that if it does what it's supposed to and it's not, being very... it's not being evil in a really conspicuous way, you're going to learn to live with it. Yeah,
there's a point at which we were supposed to talk about this. There's a point at which we as a society were supposed to say, hey, I like your service. I like your little smartphone project, Google, but I don't want to use your services. I just like your smartphone platform. And I think that we did talk about that, and that point was 4 years ago. At this point, it's so clear that Android is the future, is a massive, massive part of Google's future. You have to be cool with it. Right now with Windows Phone, I'm still at a point where I can say, Outlook.com, get out of my face. Bing, I'll use you, but I don't really like you, etc. But I love Windows Phone, so I'm going to keep using that and find a way to use my preferred ecosystem with it. With Android, that's real tough to do now. And that's the way that Google is going to make money off it. That's how Google is going to build its future. And there's really no getting around it unless you're willing to do some really intense, elbow-deep work on it yourself as a hobbyist. So
I think it's still open, but it's hard.
Yeah, it's open with giant air quotes. If you get the biggest dude to do air quotes around open, that's what it is, right?
Paul Bunyan is doing air quotes right now.
Yeah.
I'm a bad person to ask this question because I use pretty much every Google service ever. Just because,
right.
We use Google Apps for Pocketnow. I use Google Apps for all of my side stuff. I use, Google Now religiously. Absolutely. I use YouTube. I use
Hangouts. A lot of us are in the same boat.
Yeah. So I'm also, and I think a lot of this is people don't like Google Plus being shoved down their throats, but I'm obviously very open.
Mm-hmm.
I'm obviously very open to Google Plus. I like Google Plus a lot. And I think that's why I'm so much more open to Google throwing it in my face every time I turn around. But I like the ability to have all of the services that I use kind of integrate together and play together really nicely. And I don't get that in other ecosystems. Mm-hmm. For example, iCloud and iMessages, they work together, and even the notes from iOS and reminders, they all work together, but I can't get that somewhere else. I have to be using an Apple product, and on Google I can get it pretty much anywhere. So for me, that's yes, you can, but it's really janky. I can't get Google Plus on Windows Phone, and that's one of the main reasons I stopped using Windows Phone, is because I couldn't do Google Plus.
So I think the moral of the story is, if you have a lot to say, write us multiple times. Because Alistair, I love this. We've actually had the same email on 2 different shows, and I still think we haven't answered 30% of it. It's that massive. So really, thank you for your thoughts. It's awesome, but it's just too much for us to get done, particularly as we've been dragging into the almost 2-hour mark here. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, I read the question and forgot it by the time I finished reading, so I talked about what I wanted.
That was, I think we've all had a special 15 minutes together. Is it my turn again, or is it Steven's turn now?
I don't know, but I'm hungry.
Back to Steven. All right, me too. I've been thinking about cheeseburgers.
I ate at 6 this morning, and that's the last time I ate.
I haven't eaten.
Lord.
Steven.
I got one more here I found from Ankit V.
Okay.
Ankit says, hello, really enjoy the weekly and the tongue-in-cheek humor as well.
Hey.
You are funny guys, so you have good taste.
What? I've never intended to be funny at all.
So we've been hearing rumors about Apple testing multiple screen sizes, including 6 inches for their next line of phones. At present, an Android user won't necessarily switch to iOS due to many reasons, some of them being lack of customization, lack of features, etc. But the main reason would be the lack of a big screen. If Apple comes up with a 5 or 5.5 inch device, will people prefer it over, say, the Galaxy Note 4 or any other phablet-sized thing, Lumia 1520? Would this move of Apple's negatively affect the sale of other phablets, considering Apple has a better collection of apps and the screen and camera quality is almost flawless? Well, since a lot of assumptions being made there, I think that's an interesting point. I don't necessarily think that Android users have been holding off from iOS due to the size of the devices they offer. I'm sure some of them, perhaps, but I can't imagine there's this huge exodus of people over to, either from Windows Phone or Android, over to iOS if we finally get a 5, 5.5, 6 inch phone. I mean, those are, well, they're popular. That's not the predominant size that most users even enjoy over on Android. We're still 5 maybe, but 4.7, 4.8 are still big from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I don't quite understand that there's this draw that Ankit necessarily believes is there. What do you guys think?
I think Apple can only afford not to go larger for so long.
I believe that they will get bigger. I'm just not sure it's going to be the catalyst for this big exodus.
Right. No, I don't think it will be. And I think the biggest thing for Apple is size and usability. But with Motorola's Moto X, going back to that, I think they can do it without drastically upsetting all the people who like the current size. And I think that's one reason they haven't done it yet. But no, I don't think, Apple making a 5 or 5.5 inch phone will cause this crazy flooding of people from Android. I don't think that would ever happen because I think people who are tired of Android will just move from Android to iPhone, and they'll just deal with not being able to type without bumping thumbs and squinting. But I don't know. I don't think it would ever really have that effect.
I agree with you guys. I think the people who have been seduced by large screens have already moved to Android. Yeah, and if they liked it, they stayed. If they didn't, they left. Right.
They've been available for a few years now, so you're sucked into the ecosystem.
Yeah. So I don't see. Definitely, this is something that I think Apple has to do because, Taylor, like you just said, I mean, most of us can't even fit on a regular iPhone anymore. But we're used to that. I am still floored by the fact that every time I take out not even a phablet, but the Lumia 1020 with its 4.5 inch screen, people are like, "Wow, that's a big phone," and I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "That's a big screen." And I'm like, "Is it really?" Because then they take out their iPhone 4S or their their 5C or 5S, and it's like, "Oh yeah, well, yes indeed," or their Veer, yeah. So I don't know. I think that it will benefit Apple to release a larger screened iPhone, but no, I don't see the exodus happening. So, yeah, but it's a good question. I think that's a interesting bit of tactical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We have another email from just today, which I liked a lot. This is from Doug in New Jersey. Hey guys, love the podcast and glad I discovered it this year. We're glad too, Doug. I usually hold on to my phones for about 6 months and then sell it to get the latest model. I'm finally ready to sell my HTC One, favorite phone, and I'm trying to decide on my next phone. Here are the models that have caught my eye. LG G2, Sony Xperia Z Ultra, and Samsung Note 3. Your opinion, which one would you pick and why?
Note 3.
Note 3
that was
says
quick.
Taylor Martin. Bam.
No hesitation.
Yeah.
Yep, none.
Hey, Taylor, guess what? I agree.
You're going to go with this. Oh, what? I figured you'd say Z Ultra.
Oh, no. Absolutely, I agree.
Was that the sound of the space-time continuum ripping or what?
Yeah, that was an Inception. Bah. Yeah, I think that is my recommendation as well, and I'll say why in a second. What does Steven think?
I wish I didn't have to choose from just these three models here. Well, because I think it's odd to be upgrading now and choosing from these. These are all a little old, a few months at least by now. I would recommend holding out until the new year. But, if you're on this 6 months kick, and more power to you. You're a man of our own hearts here.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Of those three, I'd probably go with the Note 3. Now, if that Z Ultra Mini, that ZS or ZF, whatever it is, comes out internationally, by all means, pick that guy up. But for now, Note 3.
Yeah.
It's like calling it's not the Z Ultra Mini. It's
a Z1. Yeah.
Okay, I was about to say, that's like calling a phone like the Xperia
Right,
Big.
The Galaxy Mega Mini, yeah.
Yeah, the Xperia a little bit.
A good option. Definitely not the Z Ultra.
I feel compelled to justify my reply a little bit. Like, of these phones, I actually like a lot about each one. The Z Ultra, I liked a lot more than I thought I would, but it's more a miniature tablet for me.
I abhor that phone.
I know you do, but I love that it's waterproof, and I love that it's a miniature tablet. And if you have the room in your pockets for it, then it by all means, awesome.
Or if you carry a fanny pack or wear a fanny pack.
Yeah. But the Note 3 gives you a big size screen without feeling really big.
Right. The Note 3 screen is very large. You get the added utility of the S Pen. You get, in my opinion, the best multitasking suite of any Android phone with the multi-window functionality, excellent battery life, passable camera, etc. And the G2 has some wonderful innovations as well. The rear key is, they really harp on it too much in their commercials. It's not a big deal, as big a deal as LG wants it to be. But it is handy in some situations. The software is responsive. The hardware is, cooking. And the bezels are very thin. But it's otherwise, I think, an unremarkable device. Go ahead.
It also has an autopilot mode where you can tell it to do something, and it's like, nah, I don't want to do that right now. I'm going to do what I want.
Only if you get a busted review unit. Shut up, Taylor.
I'd like to open the camera. Rather, let's go to Google+.
But
in fact, let's share that picture that you didn't mean to take because I took it without your input, and let's share it to Google+ for you.
Oh, you got the NSA version.
Yeah, it did that for me. Like, I tried to open the camera, and it was like, nah, let's go to gallery.
Doug, Taylor's burned about his review unit.
You got to consider, Taylor, though, that maybe the G2 knows what you want better than you do.
There you go. It's just Google now taken to an extreme, brother.
Yeah, it probably does. No,
I think we all think that. Yeah, I think
it's not as bad as I make it out.
We all think the Note 3 is probably the best way to go here if you're picking right now.
It's the most well balanced, and I think out of these, it's probably I'm not going to go with that. I was going to say it's the most future proofed, but I think really all of them have pretty much the same specs.
Yeah, the hardware in all of them is really impressive. Yeah. But I think the Note 3 is the best mix right now, and let us know which one you go for, Doug. Thanks for writing in. It's good to hear from someone on the Eastern Seaboard as well.
Now, if we were talking hypotheticals, if the G2 were like shaped like the G Flex, I would probably change my opinion. But
I would snap that up in a hot second.
Yeah, the G Flex as it is like I said in my review rebuttal, a conundrum because it's ergonomics for one-handed use on a device that really is only a two-handed device. But if it were on the G2 form and 1080p, maybe that would be amazing.
It gets melted a little.
It's amazing as it is. It's amazing as it is. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. What you got to do is you just buy a G2, get it nice and warm, take it someplace on the equator, and then just put it in your back pocket and have a seat.
You know what?
See if that works.
You know what I like to do? I like to leave an image on the G Flex for 30 seconds and then flip to something lighter, like a white background, and watch the image fade away.
You do not. That is a problem with your device. That is not a problem with my G Flex. But
I'm not sure. But I read it all over the internet. So.
All over the internet? Well,
yeah, there were like 5 reviews that had the same problem.
Hey, Steven.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to read that email from Junaid Nasir?
Oh, sure.
I can find it here.
It's very nice, and I like it. And it kind of segues a little bit into the last piece of listener mail.
When is it from?
It is from November 27th.
Oh, I have to scroll back 3 pages here. Sure. Junaid Nasir writes, "Hello, guys. How ate you all?"
That's how I ate
rather well.
That's how I ate.
Yes, I gained 3 pounds. over Christmas.
I gained more than that.
Lost a notch on my belt in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
First of all, I would like to say that Pocketnow Weekly would not be what it is without Michael Fisher and Taylor Martin.
Oh.
And Stephen Shank. He forgot to write.
But it's in there. You just got to read it.
It was implied there.
That's what the ellipses is.
Right.
Thank you.
You guys absolutely rock. I've been following Pocketnow for over a year now. I just recently started listening in on the podcast. Well, good. And please keep listening.
Yeah.
He says he's a medical student and usually listens to music while studying, and now for a couple days been listening to the podcast. I assume there's a question in here somewhere.
Oh, there is.
We love you singing our praises.
That's awesome. I love it.
Dig me down into it. Aha. How do you become a tech writer like we guys are? I mean, I love technology and the stuff that you guys do and write about. I want to do it too because I'm just obsessed with all this new technology pouring in, and I follow it every day. I just want to ask, do I need to be properly educated in the field, or can I just do it as a hobby because I absolutely love it? Thank you, guys. Keep rocking.
All right, so I love this question. We get this question once in a while, but this is a good one, and it's a good opportunity because we have Stephen on the podcast. Taylor and I have answered this question so many times, but to Stephen, I haven't heard your answer. How do you become a tech writer, Stephen?
I'm not sure. It just kind of happens.
Yes, I agree with that.
Well, how did you become one, Stephen?
Well, I went to college for writing, and I really didn't use that degree for several years thereafter. And after a period of unemployment, looking around for jobs, I just happened to connect with a friend who had been working at Engadget at the time. Sent some writing samples, nothing came of that. But then, as these things do in the industry, eventually new opportunities open up. The person who's hiring gets their hands on your information, and if you're lucky, you get a opportunity to actually start producing content, and then if you're good at it, it just sort of snowballs from there. But as your question about if you can just do it as a hobby, absolutely. Anyone can publish on the internet these days. If you're really passionate about phones, blog about them, get your opinions out there, and then people can see this content you produced, and if they're looking to build upon their staffs at some point, and you have all this great CV out there they can easily access, that's what's going to open the door for you.
Agreed.
Yeah, Marquez Brownlee, our friend MKBHD, is a prime example of this. He just started making videos probably back in 2008 or 2009, and he is absolutely killing it these days by himself. And it's all he does.
One of the things I found out in the VIP interview I did with him was that, for the first extended period, for the first 2 years, he had something 50 subscribers. It was something ridiculously low.
He
just kept hammering away at it.
Yeah, if you love what you do, people will respond to that.
Yeah,
he and I actually worked together back in the day. He was doing videos for Droid Dog when I was at Phone Dog. And that's when he didn't really have a big following, and that's when he was about to leave doing stuff for Droid Dog. It just kind of caught on, and then just overnight it was like bam, and now he is where he is, and it's crazy. But that's just kind of how it is. You put in the time where you're passionate, and it kind of just comes into play, or falls into place, I guess is the better way to put it. I just randomly ran into Aaron Baker, who used to be the editor-in-chief at Phone Dog. And I was selling phones for a living at Best Buy Mobile. And I had sold him probably 3 or 4 phones over the course of a month. And he also, there was an ad partnership there, but he kept coming in and walking out with phones. I asked him questions, and then, bam, he offered me a job. It was like, what? I didn't expect this. I just wanted to know what you do. And then he asked me to work for me. I mean, I had never written anything before. So, it's just a lot of it is chance. And being in the right place, knowing the right person, and showing that you're passionate about it. That's the biggest thing. Passionate and have some sort of skill or knowledge that, not just anyone else has. Michael?
I agree. I was about to answer this question by saying, you really, really should have a look, if you haven't already, Junaid, at our Get to Know You pieces, because I think all three of us on the air today, Stephen, Taylor, and myself, have written one. We had a series earlier in the year. It was like, just get to know us. Here's our lives, and here's how we kind of fell into this. So there's some more insight there. I think, Taylor, you made some great points there. You both did. And I was about to drop a link into the podcast about it, but then I found that searching for, how do you say this? Curriculum vitae?
Vitae, yeah.
Searching on Google for Pocketnow Curriculum vitae, the first search result is this like spam link that someone else has set up as a redirect featuring my face.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I've been noticing some of those lately.
Yeah, Dre Curriculum Vitae Texas Dre is where it goes.
Oh, yeah, they're all for Beats by Dre headphones.
Yeah, I don't understand exactly how that works, but I'm annoyed by it.
Please ignore that, everyone.
Yeah, but if you go 2 more results down, you get Anton's and my get to know pieces. You can also just find them at, what is it, pocketnow.com/tag/
Pocketnow
Insider?
Yeah, Pocketnow Insider.
Yeah.
That's a series that we run where you can kind of get a peek behind the curtain at what it's like to do this. And yeah, I agree with it's one thing that you guys both said. Like, it can be totally accidental. For me, it was a decade of reading tech sites like ours, blogs and media outlets and everything, and suddenly deciding I really wanted to be very busy one year, which was 2012. And submitting a whole bunch of writing samples to sites that were hiring. And Pocketnow happened to be the one that responded, and I happened to fit in well, and everyone learned a lot from each other, and suddenly we're all here. And it's wonderful. And I could not imagine being anywhere else all of a sudden, even though my life was very different not much more than a year ago. So that's another thing. Like, when you fall into it, Junaid, I know you're in medical school,
Pakistan.
Well, Pakistan, yes, but medical school, yeah.
You're in medical school here. I mean, passion about smartphones is great here, but you might end up a little better off down the road sticking with the medical school.
Well, no, what I was fascinated by is like, wow, you probably have enough to do, right? Do you really need a side thing? But you must be one of those people who can really overachieve and do a lot more than the average person. And that's what I did for about a year, and then I was like, I got to trim this down. So Pocketnow became my main focus. But if you do end up doing it, I want to say that it's like falling into a fast-moving river. Suddenly, everything in your life is moving much faster. You have very little time for anything else. And somehow, that's really enjoyable.
So it's a lot like medical school. I don't know the enjoyable part, but...
Yeah. So... I think we could talk about this forever, but this actually segues into the last piece of listener mail we're doing. So, Junaid, thank you, and good luck in medical school. Good luck, and let us know if you do end up writing some tech stuff. Shoot us some links, please, and we will do our best to check those out. And finally, the last question, getting us to Inbox Zero this hour, asks some very similar ones. This is from Muhammad Asri Salahan. I think I'm pronouncing it closely to what it actually is. From Malaysia. A couple questions which I hope to hear you guys answer in the podcast. Well, we will do our best. Now, there's a list, everyone, of 9 questions here.
Well, they're not.
Some of them are not questions, yes. Some of them, but there are a lot here, so we might not reach all of them, is what I was saying, Stephen. Do you disagree?
No.
So why don't we alternate in this last piece of listener mail? Why don't we kind of hop between these? And we will not answer all of these completely, but let's do... And Brandon has answered number 2, so I'll kick us off with number 2. Brandon wrote a piece on this, a Pocketnow Insider piece, about a year ago. The question is, how do you guys monetize and commercialize Pocketnow?
By selling your information to the NSA. I mean,
you aren't owned by big companies like other tech outlets, like AOL, etc. Buying gadgets are expensive, so you guys must have deep pockets. No. No. So Pocketnow is a mid-sized tech site. We are nowhere near as large as some of the bigger guys with their hundreds of people on their teams. We also are not a one-man operation. We have 9 guys on the team, and the majority of our income comes from advertisements. So you'll notice you watch our videos, advertisements are placed on the videos, advertisements are on the content on Pocketnow, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where a lot of it comes from. Brandon went into detail on it in a written post about a year ago, and I think that one is also tagged Pocketnow Insider, so you can check that out. Steve, were you going to say something?
Because Apple pays us $1 million to badmouth Windows Phone,
exactly
and
right.
Microsoft pays us the same to badmouth Apple. We just don't let them know about the conflict of interest.
Right, and Samsung pays us more than anybody else.
Oh,
so,
yeah. And Sony.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. So no,
but I was going to say it was very humbling. It's always very humbling to go to a trade show like CES and see like CNET or Engadget or TechCrunch with like
huge
70, 60, 80 people.
Yeah.
Well,
and the big old trailer.
Trailers and they have their own booths and all kinds of stuff, and you're there like by yourself or with two other people like running around with your heads in your bags, and it's just it's crazy.
It's so it's but that's fun. I like that we were able to put out what we're able to put out with the limited resources that we do have. So no, we do not have deep pockets, but that's how we monetize our stuff. And as far as gadgets and things like that, Mohammed, a lot of them are review devices that are not ours. We don't get to keep them. We have to send them back. They're from the manufacturers or the carriers help us out a lot. AT&T in particular is a carrier in the United States that has really, really helped us out a lot in getting review devices when an OEM doesn't have one to spare. And yes, sometimes we do have to buy them, but thankfully we don't have to buy them all. So that's how that works. Why don't somebody read number 3?
I'll take
you guys one. Okay.
Taylor will do it.
And the structure of the show goes to S.
Yeah.
Steven, go ahead.
Do you guys do other things career-wise? I mean, is Pocketnow your only bread and butter, or do you have anything else outside of blogging and tech journalism? Because Pocketnow involves tons of commitment, time, and patience. How right you are.
I love that Muhammad knows that. Yes, absolutely. You are correct.
Yeah.
So we're all 3 full-timers on the show, right now?
Yes.
Yeah. We're all 3 full-time Pocketnow folks, but we all do things on the side as well, I think. At least Taylor and I do. Steven, you do. Do you do anything else?
No, I'm Pocketnow.
Ooh, Steven wins the award.
When I started off, I was doing SAT test prep, which was a lot of fun.
Really?
Because I love saying I'm awesome at standardized testing, and I like to brag to high schoolers about this. But Pocketnow needed me for more time, and so I had to choose between either not committing to either as much as I would like to, or just doubling down on one or the other. So Pocketnow won.
Awesome.
Yeah, he bleeds blue and Zoria.
Yeah, Zoria font. So, and then Taylor, you do a couple things on the side.
Yeah, I've got a couple things that I do. I can't talk about all of them, but one of them is a YouTube channel, and it's for do-it-yourself stuff. I earn very, very little from that because we've only done 2 videos, so it's just kind of a hobby thing.
It's very young, right?
Yeah, we had a plan of putting out a lot of videos in all of our free time, my roommate and I, and we kind of ran into a financial wall. So to answer your first question, no. I ran into a financial wall, and I've been unable to produce the second video because it requires some capital. Stuff doesn't come free, and time is money. So in that regard, I haven't really done a lot with it. But yes, I'm always doing stuff on the side, and Michael is too. I don't know about always, but he does have a side project.
Absolutely, yeah. My training is as an actor. That's where I graduated from college with a BFA in acting, and I until recently did that a lot. I was actually able to pay my rent and then some with acting, which was nice. I got to say I was a working actor. I did voiceover for many, many years.
And if anyone wants a link to Michael's episode of what was it? That haunting show?
A Haunting on Discovery. Yes, the finest piece of cinema.
I can help you out with that.
Thank you, Steven.
Please send that to me in an email.
Did I embed the Medico Keys bit in my Get to Know You piece? I think I did. So I also did some great commercials too. But anyway, there's that. I still do some acting work. No, I didn't do any Kicks.
As a child?
I did not. Mikey will not eat anything. And then there's I also have a side channel as well on YouTube, a project between my father and me called Rapid Nadion. I've talked about that in my Get to Know You piece. Taylor, you've talked about your piece elsewhere. Taylor's side project is called Mod.
Yes.
We're elsewhere on the internet, but I think the 3 of us on the show right now on the weekly here, we're all full timers. So the majority of our time goes to Pocketnow.
Yeah, I don't earn money from the other stuff that I do. So it's just hobby.
I do, but I get most of my stuff from Pocketnow.
Yeah,
I can't live solely on the other stuff anymore. I used to, but I'm not.
I've earned pennies from YouTube on my side project. So
you know what? It's a start, brother.
I have to dig up. I have some 8-year-old video somewhere with 2.5 million views. I have to figure out a way to monetize that thing.
Yeah, you do. I didn't know about this.
It's a hamster running around in a cage.
Please send me that link.
No, I will.
All right. What do you do, number 4? What do you do with old gadgets that you bought with your own pocket money, not review units? Do you keep them or sell them on eBay? Or car boot sales? Is that like a garage sale? Is that like a trunk of the car sale?
Yeah.
I don't know.
British.
Kind of sounds shady.
It does sound shady.
We actually set up on street corners with our trench coats, and they're lined with phones. You're like, hey, get your phone here.
Come on over here. You look like a person who needs an upgrade.
You looking for a phone?
Hey.
I struggle with this issue. I just upgraded to the Nexus 5, and I have this beautiful Nexus 4. I babied that thing. It's in like new condition. Can't bring myself to sell it.
Oh.
Because, I just know I'm going to want to start experimenting, and I'll put Ubuntu on it or something. And I'm not going to get what I feel it's worth, so I might as well hold on to it.
Yeah, well, its value plummeted when they dropped the price to, $250 or whatever. So
it's not even going to be worth selling.
Yeah. I would be in that same exact boat, but I sold mine because a friend was in need. So.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I juggle phones. What I do with the phone, I'll buy one and then I'll sell another, or I'll sell one to buy another. I'm constantly, phones exchanging hands is the way to put it, and tablets. So it's just always kind of moving stuff around to afford new stuff.
I'm blasting my ears off with loops based on what this other question that's coming up. What's the other thing? What's old guy? I mean, I'll sell old stuff if I bought it. Sometimes we'll sell some. Thank you, Stephen. Sometimes we'll sell devices that Pocketnow bought in order to finance another device. That's not that's sort of rare, but we'll do it if we need to. And sometimes we'll do giveaways. I think we gave away Brandon's. What was that? The Optimus G. That was the subject of a giveaway. Brandon bought this Optimus G, and he was like, he bought it 3 months after it was new, and then he was like, yeah, this is gonna be my new daily driver. I love this thing. The resolution's great. And he got bored of it in 4 weeks, and he's like, yeah, I haven't used this at all. Let's do a giveaway. So they end up all over the place, and sometimes we'll just hold on to them to distribute to the team because we are probably in more need of extended loans than anyone else, which is why when we buy a device, it's really handy for us because we hold on to devices for a long time. We do an after the buzz. We do a worst. We do. Sorry, we got a chat going on in the background. We do worst gadgets ever. We do throwbacks. We do all this stuff that require and comparisons that require us to hold on to these devices for a very long time. And so selling them is sometimes not as advantageous to us as just holding on to them so we can use them later. Who wants to read number 5?
Why don't you go check out what I sent you?
I think I will. Taylor, you read number 5.
Yeah, number 5 is a tricky one. We've been asked a lot, but I'll read it. I know you guys are more American and Western-oriented in your tech coverage. Is there any future plan to expand your coverage to other parts of the world? Emerging markets, Southeast Asia, care to share with us? That one is very difficult because it's not just as easy as just picking someone out of the bunch and running with it. You have to get someone who's deep-seated in those markets to really understand them. For example, I can't really write about emerging markets or Southeast Asia because I don't really know about them and I don't live there, so all I can do is read about them, and I don't read different languages, and a lot of that coverage is in other languages. So to have someone to do that, I know Engadget has a Chinese version.
Richard Lye runs that, and he's awesome.
BGR has BGR India, BGR China. They've got all these different channels, and they have people working for those sites specifically. For us, it would I think kind of clutter our feeds because we'd be covering just radically different things in one feed, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we would also need more people in different areas, and that's the hurdle is expanding to that.
That's the big one, especially with Southeast Asia. I mean, we see a lot of news come out of there, and we try to cover the important stuff. But even when we're using, automatic translating websites have gotten great over the past decade or so, but still they struggle to pick up on some of the nuances, and it can just be really hard to make sense out of what's saying in a way that you can speak authoritatively about it. So unless we had, people on the ground there who are really, dug into the culture, they knew the language and all, it'd be difficult to report on it with the quality that we would like to. So as a result, we sort of stay on the fringes of these areas.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I was watching the hamster video.
That's a good one.
and thinking about that comment the whole time.
Yeah. But I will add one thing to that, to number 5. I got an email today that expansion is not outside of the future plans for us. We expanded a lot. Even since I've come aboard, I think the team has expanded by
I'm an
3 members. Yeah, exactly. So we're, growth is a very big part of what we're about and what we have been about in at least the past year. And thankfully, we're, enough people are reading and watching that it's making it possible. So that's a good thing. And speaking of which, number 6, FYI, says, I don't know exactly what the respectful term of address here, whether it's Muhammad or Asri al-Bakir or anything, but FYI, I subscribe to your YouTube, RSS feeds, and Twitter. It's been great. Hey, thank you. Thank you for adding one more reader to the pile, and for this awesome question list, which we're almost through with. This is
the longest podcast ever.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Taylor, would you like to read number 7?
Yeah, you guys did an outstanding job with Pocketnow. In my opinion, most of the time, you guys are more reliable and trustworthy and independent than other big tech outlets.
Such
as blank.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, another thing, I just wanted to read this, not to toot our own horn even more, but just to make the point that, when we go to these shows, kind of regardless of this respective size of our outlets or anything like that, we're all kind of... We're technically, yes, we're business competitors, but I don't think any of us here on the ground level doing the actual reporting stuff and working on content really necessarily care about that. Yeah, I don't think we're going around like spouting trade secrets and like telling each other, sharing secret information with each other. Certainly not. But
hey,
we're all,
brother.
Yeah, but we're all like friends, We're all just like,
brother,
hey,
this is how you earn
Yeah.
more money on
Yeah.
YouTube. Like nobody does that. Like it.
Yeah.
Like
I've been doing this wrong. I've been going around writing bad stuff about our competition on the walls of bathroom stalls in magic marker.
Oh God.
Was that not the right thing to do?
Well,
Oh no!
That's a different way.
That was
to
in your
go.
job description.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that's the old way of doing it.
No, like if you look through our Twitter, like most of the time preparing for a show like CES, we're like, "Hey, you're going to CES? Let's meet up. Let's have drinks."
Yeah,
and stuff like
let's
that.
party.
So we're all like friends, or at least I am. I'm Michael. He's less popular, so
Shut
nobody
up.
likes him.
Shut up.
But I'm friends with a lot of people in the industry. I have a lot of personal friends outside.
Taylor
of
has a
work.
lot more friends outside of Pocketnow than within.
Yeah, yeah. People inside Pocketnow hate me.
We have a weekly conference call. And it's like, is Taylor going to be on this one? I don't want him to be around. But yeah, so we're quite friendly with each other. So thank you, and please read it. Please read us all, and thank you for reading us. Number 8 is keep the flame burning, yo. I love this. I'm going to put this on a T-shirt.
We can do that. Okay.
Thank you.
That'll works for us.
Stephen, you want to read the last question here?
Last but not least, your jingle song. What's the name? It's haunting me. Can't get it out of my head. That's the idea. What is the song? I don't know.
I have been working on finding this out. I have a background music folder that's many files long. I think I've found it. Hold on, let me see.
You need to share
No,
that
that's
with me.
not
'Cause
it.
I have like the same 3 clips that I use in every video.
Yeah, you know what stinks is we use a lot of different tracks for different videos, and I'm playing them all in my ears right now, and I always forget what ours is called. I used to think it was called Concept, but that's what we actually use for some background tracks in our videos. So it's not Concept. It's not Uncovered. It's not MediaTek _. It's not Express. It's not InMotion. It's not Optimum. Is it Optimum?
For the first 2 there, I thought we were listing Ashley Simpson songs.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these.
Up to MediaTek.
When I started using some of these, Brandon complained that it sounded like the background of our videos was like the ambient music in a sushi restaurant, and he like hated it. And I was like, "Oh, come on, man! Some of these are good." Then we had to shift them around a lot, but I can't find the actual title of it. I have to open Final Cut, and that's going to kill the throughput here. But I can tell you that we get all the music we use is what do you call it, guys? Not public domain, but
Under the Creative Commons license.
yeah, it's revenue. It's independent of revenue here.
It's under the Creative Commons license.
Yeah, it's under the Creative Commons license. Did somebody say that?
I did.
Hey, Mike, did you know it's under the Creative Commons license?
Is it under the Creative Commons license?
It's
right here.
under the Creative Commons license.
Oh, okay. Oh, I found it, guys. It's called Sequence. We get some of our music from a site called IB Audio, and this particular track that you hear on the weekly and on all of our intro and outro tracks on videos is called Sequence, and it's very, very nice. And I'll just drop some in there, just so you can hear it, just so you can bop to it for a second. And it's probably one of my favorite pieces of stock music ever.
Oh, I'm glad I can log back into that, because at one point I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't at one point.
Yeah, it's
One
good
of these
site.
days,
You pay an annual fee to use it, but it's good.
I feel like we should write a Pocketnow theme song with lyrics, though. Really embrace this.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Let's make that a
I'm gonna
contest.
get working on that.
Yeah, we need readers, listeners. If you want to submit your suggestions for the Pocketnow theme song, lyrical edition, please do so. I want to first of all thank you, everyone, for writing in. That last piece of mail was great. It was great to end on that. Thank you, Asri Albakir, and wow, all of them were great. We are at inbox 0, which means we're at the end of the show. Gents, pretty good show, don't you think?
Not too shabby.
Yeah. What is it? 2 hours, 20 minutes?
Yeah, right about there. I mean, everyone who's been asking for a longer show, there you go. To end 2013, we gave you a podcast that's absurdly long. I don't know if even I would have the patience to listen to this one, but the questions were great. You can hop around using the slider if you want. And, hey, everyone keep an eye on it. We won't have a podcast out before the 31st. We will have one out shortly after, but keep an eye out for that Stitcher announcement. Stitcher.promotw.com. Anything else before we go, before we close out the year, boys? Steven?
Not here.
Nope.
I didn't prepare anything, Michael.
What I love was like Joe will riff. Like I'll be like, "Hey Joe, anything to add?" And he's got nothing prepared, but he'll kind of say the same thing every time. He'll just be like, all I can say is there's a lot of great tech out there, and it's a wonderful time to be alive.
I'm sparing you the banality. Sorry, Joe.
Sick burn. I love Joe's banality. Joe needs to live tweet this one. I think that would be fun. Taylor, I know you have plenty to say, but I don't want to hear it. So I think it's time to go.
Yeah, brother.
Brother, check out these pythons. Thanks, everyone. That was the best. What kind of laugh was that? You sound like a chain-smoking weird uncle.
A lot of my friends tell me that I sound like the Mafia Babies when I laugh a lot of the time.
Mafia Babies?
I haven't seen that any more than I've seen Duck Dynasty. Everyone, thank you for listening. That's going to do it for the last episode of the Weekly for 2013. Thank you for joining us, folks. And again, thank you for propelling us to such great heights. Be sure to find us on Twitter, Casper Tech, Stephen Shank, Captain Two Phones. You can also follow Pocketnow officially at Pocketnow on Twitter, as Pocketnow on Instagram, Facebook, and Google+. And you can share opinions with other listeners online at forums.pocketnow.com. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes or Xbox Music. And if you have a topic, question, or suggestion for the show, or you just want to say hi, you can email us a brief message at podcast@pocketnow.com. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next year.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah, brother.
Brother.
Totes my goats.
Can I have vroom vroom over here with my toy cars on my desk?
Yeah, well, I would expect you to do that.
Like while you're introing?
Yeah, with your cement trucks. That sounds good.
This is a wind-up car. I didn't even know. What?
Whoa! Fresh discoveries. Oh, that sounds cool. That's going to be our new sound effect.
Right,
yeah, there you go. Now we have our new podcast sound effect. Thanks.
Yeah, brother.
Brother, check out these pythons. Thanks, everyone. That was the best. What kind of laugh was that? You sound like a chain-smoking weird uncle.